You said I could. Do I have a motion on the minutes?
Moving to approve. I sent out an email about the minutes. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read it. There are a couple of
Typos, yes.
substantial changes or changes that need to be made. On page 2, the 12 Bailiwick Road application was not delayed, and the staff report recommended issuance of a permit. So that I'm recommending the agency change that. There's a typo on the application number for lot 3550 River Road on page 4. It's supposed to be 2015-49. On page 8, 0 Moreland Road, the last sentence of the third paragraph should have the word "no" inserted before the word "land." The words "land disturbance" makes the sentence correct as to what was the plan showed. And then on page 10, 7 Grove Street, summary, last sentence, fourth paragraph. The Ms. Weiss requested that she be given until July 29th, 2015 to remove the barrier. And the next paragraph should read, a motion to uphold the order with staff recommendations and a deadline of July 29th, 2015 for removal of the barrier was made by, etc. There are a number of sort of autocorrect typos in the minutes where, for instance, the word regrading was changed to regarding. And I ask the agency's indulgence for staff to make those minor corrections as we finalize the minutes.
Bob, the one you just read before that, that was a whole editorial change, beside the autocorrect.
Yes, those four, there were 4 actual
Yes.
changes and then the autocorrect change.
Why the unusually high number? Because usually we don't go.
Yeah, usually we don't have that. It didn't get read, or what happened?
I don't know. I mean, Pat Sesto prepared the minutes. Jen and Brogno writes the minutes. I pointed out to Ms. Brogno that she needs to proofread those things as the director finishes them. And the final thing is, I think, if the director would like to share the minutes with the other staff that are here, we might catch some of that stuff because, she was taking notes on as we were reading our staff reports. I don't know if she looked at the staff reports directly.
Gotcha.
Okay, motion to approve minutes with changes made by, just read to us by Bob.
Second. All in favor? I think staff is to be commended for actually reading the minutes. I assume you were having trouble sleeping one evening.
Sleeping at work, yes.
So we've gotten through the minutes. You have
All
to
right.
seat one of the 2 alternates. You've got 2.
Okay.
Jay or...
Let's seat Scott today, if that's all right. You good? Jay, as always, please feel free to opine. Just don't vote. Director's report, please.
Okay, let's see if I can find a copy of that. This is a very busy month. We were pretty much working flat out to get applications processed, do ongoing compliance. We had a couple of pretty significant violations that eat up staff time in sending stop work orders, cease and correct orders, citations, etc. So, and it was busy because as staff are going out on vacation, other staff have to sort of fill in the gaps. So it's been a very full month, and it looks like the coming month will also be similar because some more staff are going out on break and others are coming back from break. So we're busy. The regulation revisions, second draft was sent out to the subcommittee at the end of June. I've gotten a comment back from Ms. Curlin today that I responded to, but if anybody else on the subcommittee or at this point, if anybody on the agency, like Mr. Galvin, asked for a copy of the latest draft today, and I sent in a copy. You're welcome to ask for that. We will be holding a public hearing in conjunction with our October 26th regular meeting to consider adopting the final draft revisions. The agency archives digitization effort continues, and we're working our way through the 2007 files, getting them ready to ship out to be scanned. All of the street files are done, and the indexing and everything is pretty much in shape. So we've really made a lot of progress in the last couple of months. We have a new intern, Emily F. Strachan. She's a graduate of Sacred Heart, who's just started with us this month, and she'll be following up on some of the work that the two prior interns did on invasives management out at North Street, animal control, fire training center site. That's about it from the summary. There is a numerical summary attached to the printout I put before your places tonight. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything I can.
Great, thank you, Bob. Bob, could you just let me know where we stand with the next batch of welcome letters?
Assistant Compliance Officer Daniel Fairhide is working on them. And he's been, his attention has been drawn back to them because with all of the other things going, that's a nice project for the winter. Unfortunately, we're trying to catch up for prior amount of time so that we're working in real time. So he's working on it.
Thank you. Okay. Next is agent approvals. Any questions on agent approvals?
Mr. Chairman, there was a letter that was in your packets. It was sent from one of the people who applied and got an agent's approval this month. Sherry Kunis, I guess, of 522 North Street, is requesting that the fee paid for her application be waived. Her application was to install a pool fence around an existing pool. I guess they're in the process of selling their house, and in order to get a CO on the pool or straighten things out, they have to have a pool fence. So that's her petition. I don't know if she's present tonight. I suggested she come if she wanted to present anything to the agency. Not seeing her, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the extent of effort that went into the review of the application or anything else about this application.
What is the typical fee for the pool fence?
I think it's a minor activity fee, which is the $500 basic fee. $60 also is paid. That goes to the state of Connecticut. And
the amount of staff time spent on it is?
The amount of staff time was not very much because, as I said, it was an existing pool. The pool fence is going right around the pool. It's a part of the lawn area of the existing landscape envelope. And Assistant Compliance Officer Verheide did the review. I don't think it took him as long as some other agent approval reviews do.
Well, I guess my feeling would be I'd be comfortable with reducing the application fee to $250. I'm not sure how the rest of the agency feels on that.
Why? Seriously, why? Why would you want to reduce it?
It's a minor activity, and
But we have a $500 charge for that. It's extant. And the problem I have with reducing it is that you're setting a precedent that if somebody comes in and wants, then they get a reduced fee.
Can I just point out that the section in the regulations is 19.7, I think, and there are basically two reasons the agency can reduce an application fee. If the activity applied for would clearly result in a substantial public benefit to the environment, public health or safety, and the applicant would reasonably be deterred from initiating the activity because of the fee, or the amount of the fee is excessive, clearly excessive in relation to the cost to the town for reviewing and processing the application. And then the agency is supposed to state upon its record the basis for all actions under any fee reduction.
Bob, do you have a recommendation?
I don't, no, not really. I mean, I think it's one of those things that the wetland is like 40 feet from where the pool fence is going to go. It was just within the review area of it was a regulated activity being conducted in the upland review area that she was told to come and make the application, which she did. She just didn't feel that the fee was justified given what the activity was and the amount of effort that went into it.
See, the problem that I run into with this kind of thing is you're setting a precedent where if you come in and say, well, Dan spent 15 minutes on this one, so the fee is $125 as opposed to spending an hour on it. So you're being asked to keep track of the actual amount of time that each person spent going out on anything that becomes a consent approval. If for some reason there's a hardship on this one, I would either waive it entirely based on hardship or charge them the full amount.
Okay. Well, I don't see a hardship on this. I think it's just that they want to be able to sell the property, correct?
They need a pool fence.
Yeah, just,
Yeah, I mean,
The
the
regs.
regulation doesn't seem to allow in this circumstance.
Okay. I will withdraw my recommendation then. Try to make a different.
I make a motion to approve the consent approval as it stands.
Is there a second?
Second.
Fee structure? Okay. All in favor?
dissent.
Dissent?
Why do you dissent? Speak up.
I just think that my sense is we do not get a lot of requests to reduce fees. So the concept that this will set a precedent, I think, is not based on reality of our many years of experience. And I suspect this was a very minor time expenditure by staff. There were no issues that I sense. It was a routine approval. I would tend to side with the property owner that this is not worth a $500 fee.
I believe that it moved. Motion moved to 5.
Okay.
So noted. Moving along. We're going to start the public session now. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Doreen, compliance report, please.
Okay, it's pretty short this month. We had 17 permit files reviewed for bond release. 8 of them were requested, 9 were initiated by staff. I was able to release 9 of them ultimately. We had 59 compliance inspections totaling for the month. 40 of them were compliance, 3 of them were final inspections, and we had 10 that were other, which includes green sheets or tree removal requests or that type of thing. For all of our deadlines passed, they have been received. We had a green sheet required and 2 applications that needed to be submitted with a deadline. They've been received. We have 4 stop work orders. Actually, it's 3 stop work orders and 1 violation issued this month that will be discussed under the violation section of the agenda. And then Bob already discussed our intern Emily Estration, so I won't go on any further about that.
Okay. Any questions for Doreen? Okay, thank you, Doreen. Now we will start the public session. First project up is a town project, 2015-096, Brook Ridge Drive Bridge over East Brothers Brook. Alfred Benish and Company for the town of Greenwich, DPW for replacement of bridge superstructure.
Okay, this is a bridge that the agency looked at back in 2009 and authorized the installation of scour protection measures within the watercourse channel. Now the bridge has been determined to be structurally deficient. The abutments are good, the structure that the abutments hold up is not that good, so they're going to be pulling the deck off, taking the parapets down, and rebuilding those on the existing abutments. There will be some masonry work on the abutments, just cosmetic pointing, repointing and things. And if they have to do any diversions, they can do that pretty easily during the low flow period with sandbags in this water course. So I guess the only two things I saw on site were in the southeast corner of the bridge, one 8-inch Norway maple is going to have to be removed in order to extend the parapet wall. I recommend the agency require a new native tree to be planted in the same general vicinity. That's that tree right there. Second thing is in the southwest corner of the bridge, right around here, there's a little gully forming. There's a little stand of Japanese knotweed in here, but this is it's a slope and it's washing out. I mean, it's a point where water collects and runs around. So I think the agency should require the applicant to patch that up, and if they're in the process of which, if they get the knotweed out, it would be nice, but it's going to be maybe more trouble than it's worth. But I do have conditions of approval here, pretty basic, pretty straightforward, and I recommend the agency issue a permit.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Frank Batiste. I'm with the Department of Public Works Engineering Division. As Bob mentioned, the superstructure is deteriorating, so we need to replace it. This is similar to projects we did recently on Burying Hill Road and Lake Avenue, where we're reusing the existing abutments. There's also a 6-inch water line in the stream bed that we're going to move to the upstream fascia there. And I've read the report. I don't have any objections to it. You know, we can provide a tree, or however many we need for the ones we're taking out there. And we'll also look at the erosion on that corner. We tried to address that when we did the work previously, but maybe the stone we used wasn't large enough, so maybe we could put some riprap in there. And I'm not opposed to removing the knotweed either.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Are there any public comments, questions on this application? Can I have a motion, please?
Motion approved.
Second. Okay, Bill seconded, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have consent approvals. This month, we have 4. Application 2015-082, 24 Fox Run Lane, J. Bond Septic Service for Kenneth Schulman for emergency installation of the septic system. 2015-087, 89 Lower Cross Road, SC Minor and Company, Inc. for Paul and Nancy Ward for construction of a new single-family residence. Application 2015-094, 145 Riverside Avenue, Soundview Engineers and Land Surveyors for Mark and Meredith Laoun for demolition and construction of a new single-family residence. And finally, 2015-098, 50 Dandy Drive, Earth Image LLC for Frederick and Claire Gordon for construction of a second-floor addition, retaining wall, and grading. Are there any agency questions or comments on any of the consent approvals?
Motion approved.
Public comment?
Yeah, is there any public comment on any of these?
Motion approved.
Second. Okay. All in favor? Okay, moving on to pending applications. Application number 2015-027, 17 Fort Hills Lane.
Mr. Chairman, this application has been withdrawn by the applicants after the agenda was finished.
Okay. Very good.
Did you say withdrawn?
It's been,
We were reaching the end of the 130-day review period, and there was still some outstanding things they needed to get done. They withdrew the application. They're going to be resubmitting it probably on Wednesday so that they can start the process.
okay, next application, 2015-030, 4 Apple Tree Lane. Ronald Romaniello and Kelly Romaniello, a.k.a. the estate of Kelly B. Romaniello, for legitimization of watercourse dredging.
Okay, so this was a violation that was found when staff observed an excavator and spoil dredging on the side of a brook at 4 Apple Tree Lane. The property owner explained to staff that there's major flooding issues that occur on this property over the years, and maintains that the culvert that runs under Palmer Hill Road is not sized properly to adequately capture all the water that comes down the hill. And therefore it ponds on the property and exacerbates the flooding that occurs there. The applicant did meet with the superintendent of highway and the chief engineer of the engineering division, who are both aware of the flooding issues and agree that work will be done in the future to alleviate the accumulation of debris that collects within that culvert, and to size it properly so that it will allow the proper water flow through that culvert. But that it's not a high priority area, and so there's no immediate plans for the town to do any work on that culvert. The applicant is looking to legitimize the unauthorized dredging that occurred, and is also seeking the agency's approval for the continued removal of debris and accumulated sediments within the water course.
I can't hear you at all. Can you speak?
Let's see if this helps. So they're looking to get an application for continued removal of the debris and sediment that accumulate in that brook. And they want to do this approximately 2 times a year on an as-needed basis without getting further formal applications or approvals through the agency. They plan to do this work using hand tools. The material that's removed from the brook is proposed to be spread within the existing garden that's located on the property, right here in this location. It might be prudent to test the dredged materials to determine if it contains hazardous materials. And should it be determined that hazardous materials are in the dredged material, it should be disposed of properly. So staff referred in the staff report the applicant to the Connecticut DEP's website for additional information on how to get rid of that material if necessary. Staff has asked the applicant where they believe the sediments are occurring that accumulate in the brook. He believes that it originates off Palmer Hill. It comes down the hill and deposits in this location. Unfortunately, this map doesn't show the full site, but there's a clay pipe that comes off of 269 Palmer Hill that releases sediments down into the brook in this location. And also, he believes that road drain on Hillcrest Lane, which is up above this property, collects road, sands, and debris and directs it down to 4 Apple Tree Lane. Staff had recommended that they implement forebays in various locations to condense the siltation so that it'd be easier to clean out, but the applicant does not believe that this would be effective. Staff recommends that the agency require the applicant to install a planting plan that has a minimum of a 5-foot wide buffer along both sides of this brook that includes native trees, shrubs, and herbaceous vegetation to better maintain the bank, reduce slumping and scour, and aid in the alleviation of flooding. Also, while on site, staff found that a pipe that releases water from an off-site watercourse and deposited it into the brook. There's some sinkholes that exist here, so the applicant is looking to repair this portion of the drain. They'll be putting sandbags and silt fencing here to divert the water into an existing drainage that goes to the east of this garden here, and it'll bring it down into the swale along the west side. They'll excavate out the damaged piping and replace it with two 20-foot pipe lengths of pipe, and then they'll backfill it and seed it. That's proposed to take about 2 days or less. Should the agency decide to issue a permit, staff's provided the following special and standard conditions. However, if the agency chooses not to issue an approval, the application must be denied since the second 65-day review period for the application ends July 30th, 2015.
Okay. Thank you, Doreen. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Ron Romaniello, one of the owners of 4 Apple Tree Lane. Doreen had indicated that where that corrugated pipe needs to be replaced, that runs right from Hillcrest Lane, a catch basin. And I can attest to that because I put tracer dye in it in a heavy rain, and 10 minutes later it was in my property. And the only reason that pipe was placed there because when Hillcrest Lane came in, it exasperated the water flow, concentrated it, and sent it down to our property. That's about all. I can also add, I've been corresponding with Chief Engineer, and he should have approached your organization in the last week. If not, let me know, and I'll ask him again about the possibility of what needs to be done for the culvert. And also, Mr. Roberto said there will be a grate, for lack of a professional term, placed at the mouth of to catch any debris that can also clog the drain underneath. That's about it. I hope I've complied with everything that you've requested.
Thank you. So you've read the conditions of approval and
Yeah, she clarified, I did have a question, where does the plantings begin? Because I think it would enhance, and also, I just have to find the right tree that'll withstand the flooding that happens there. That'll be interesting. But I do have a 3-page list that Doreen has provided that I have not researched, to be honest, yet, on what is feasible with a professional, anyway.
thank you. Are there any questions for?
Yeah, I have a question for Doreen.
Okay.
Doreen, you didn't make a recommendation on this particular application.
That's true. I don't particularly have an issue with them dredging it periodically, but I didn't receive the planting plan, so it's kind of left open-ended. If we receive that in addition to the bond, and we don't return that until those plantings are in, I think that's reasonable.
Okay, so you're recommending we proceed?
Sure, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Are there any-
You're clear on the testing of the dredge materials?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you're ready to comply with whatever legal requirements?
It's always been the intent to comply. As I said, I've been away from if you recall, I've been away from the house for years. But we've always cleared it with a mason's hoe, 2 holes in it to be able to mix it, always by hand. And my late cousin, who passed away 2 weeks ago, took it upon himself to dredge. I don't consider what we're going to be doing dredging. It's more like clearing, because dredging, it seems pretty aggressive. But I'm not going to be able to dredge anything with a hand tool, I can assure you that. So it's understood, and we only wish to comply. Never knew we were violating, to be honest. But
Thank you. Is there any public questions or comments on this application? Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve is recommended.
Okay, Jim seconds, all in favor?
All right.
thank you.
Okay. Next application is 2015-072, 2 Cotswood Road, Yost Design LLC, for Dmitry Mironov for the installation of restoration plantings.
All right, the agency first looked at this application at the June agency meeting. It's a clearing violation. The wetland area to the west of the watercourse was cleared of vegetation. There was also blocks and logs and invasive vegetation that was within that area. The applicant's proposing a variety of native plantings that include 52 trees and 123 shrubs, in addition to a native wet meadow mix. And they're also proposing to do a walking path through the area. Some of the previous concerns that were raised by the agency or by staff include a demarcation feature to be proposed along the edges of the walking path so that any maintenance mowing doesn't go beyond what was approved. The applicant has come back with a steel edging that will be used to demarcate the path. They'll be using 15-inch stakes to drive it down to reduce any impacts to the surrounding wetland. Rather than cultivating the existing Pachysandra here to the east of the stream, they're going to just leave what is existing, and any open areas of earth will be seeded with a wet meadow mix. We did receive a comprehensive invasive management plan that includes all of the invasives to be managed, how many times a year they'll manage for it, what they'll use, and how they'll do it. So we received a good plan for that. There are a couple things that are outstanding. The applicant needs to clarify the activity that was observed by staff in this location during the site inspection. They have said that they installed boulders to retain runoff and a few steps for access to this part of the yard. So this needs to be put on a plan. They believe they didn't have to get a review with this because they thought it was outside of the setback area, but it is within the upland review area. So this should be put on a plan for our review. There's a sewer line that runs parallel to the watercourse, located on the western side of the watercourse. There's a letter from the wastewater division manager, Richard Feminella, stating that there'll have to be rehabilitation work on this sanitary sewer line in the near future, and also indicated that any plantings that are installed need to be approved by the sewer division. They want to make sure whatever is there is not in the vicinity of the sewer line, and that there's no deep-rooted plants within that location as well. So a letter has been given to Richard Feminella for his review with the planting plan. We have not received any comments or written approval at this time. So staff is recommending that the agency delay issuing an order to correct until the issues addressed here are addressed.
Thank you, Doreen. Do we have anyone from the applicant here today? No? Any agency comments on this application at this time? Any public comments? Okay.
Motion to delay.
Is there a second? Second. Jim seconds. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, next is 2015-073, 147 Glenville Road. William Kinney Associates LLC for INCT LLC for installation of restoration plantings.
The agency began their review of this application last month, and thank you, and delayed the matter when staff pointed out that there, on top of the original clearing violation, that the application was made to address additional unauthorized regulated activities had been found to have occurred on site. Those activities included the planting of large maple trees along both sides of both Indian Spring Road and the southern end of Midwood Drive. Many of those trees were planted in immediately adjacent to wetland areas. Because the trees were so large, there were a number of retaining walls that were built to level the soil and create a suitable planting area for the trees. It's not on this plan, but is there another plan in there? Oh, okay. Well, you all have the plan and you're familiar with this. The natural herbaceous growth along the edge of the road had been removed, and fill and sod had been placed all along the road on both sides of Indian Spring Road and on the west side of Midwood Drive. On the other sheet, at the northerly of the wetlands along Indian Spring Road, there were drains that had been installed at some point and were discharging directly into or immediately adjacent to that wetland. And when staff went out there on, this would have been the 2nd of June, I guess, we just had one of the recent very heavy rains, and there were no erosion controls. So mud was running down the road into basins along the road, into the wetlands next to the road, and even into the bypass that had been created around the pond that's being built here at the end of Midwood Drive, and going down into a pond at the corner of Midwood and Hunsinger. So there were unauthorized regulated activities and direct wetland impacts. After hearing this summary last month, the agency directed staff to meet with Mr. Kenny and the site contractor, Mark Mariani, to go over what needed to be submitted to remedy this additional work, this additional violation. So I guess Mr. Kenny has the other sheet here. The plan is to take this retaining wall that was built next to the northerly wetland, dismantle it, pull the fill back, recreate it further away from the wetland, and plant the area between the wall and the wetland with shrubs. I would note that there are 5 other little semicircular retaining walls next to this wetland that need to be retrofitted with filter fabric if they're not, that don't currently have it between the retained soil and the stone walls. The width of the sod adjacent to the wetland areas has been reduced, and native shrub and herbaceous plants are additional native herbaceous and shrubby plants are proposed to be planted along in the understory here. A rain garden will be created right about here. The road is uncurbed, and drainage tends to go from both sides of the road over into this area before it goes into sort of an obscured drain and then down somehow into this watershed. So creating that rain garden here will help to renovate any water coming off the road and down the shoulders, down the sodded shoulders that are left. And then the 2 yard drains up here are going to be redirected and discharging to level spreaders rather than direct pipe discharge to the wetland. These are all things that Director Sesto and I discussed with Mr. Kenny and Mr. Mariani. I think the plan is responsive to all the points we raised, and I recommend that the agency issue an order to correct with a deadline for not only this new restoration, but the original correction of the understory clearing. And I'd say an October 15th deadline is very tight, but is in understanding that we really shouldn't make them plant all these plants during the drought period that we're entering right now. As an aside, I would say that citations were sent to both Mark Mariani Incorporated and the property owner. These citations were calculated based on each violation adjacent to each wetland. The number of violations calculated was 14, so these citations were for a total of $14,000 each. The Mariani and INCT LLC have the opportunity to appeal these to the citation hearing officer. I haven't gotten any notice that they intend to appeal. I don't think the appeal period is over yet, but is probably rapidly approaching. So we're either going to get the citations paid, or they're going to have to appeal pretty quick.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Kane?
Good evening. I agree with Mr. Quasi's description of our site walk and our discussion and the items that we agreed to and the updates that we made to our drawing to reflect the requests that the Pat Sesta and Mr. Quasi made. We're in agreement with the conditions and pleased to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, what is the timing on finding out about whether or not these retaining walls have the filter fabric on them? There's one in particular that Bob was talking about.
This wall at this location?
No, he mentions in his report item 1, there's 4 other or 5 other walls.
These little half circles here, but about 10 foot in diameter.
I'm sure that won't be a problem to find that out within a couple weeks, within a week.
That's a condition, you're going to retrofit those as well?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And do those half-circle, those basins, impinge on the wetland?
No. So they fall outside the wetland. And it's clear, I think it's shown on the drawing.
It looks like they fall out by about 1/16 of an inch.
4 feet. Probably one and
Doesn't look that way when you drive by it. What would it take to take those out of there entirely?
I'm sorry?
What would it take to take those out of there entirely, so that they're not even close to the wetland?
Physically, it's not a lot of work to take those out. I know that the applicant, the arrangement of those trees is a uniform arrangement the entire length, and so I know it's very important to them. Certainly, physically, it's not a problem to move those. But I know that I'd have to go and ask them. They haven't given me permission to agree to that at this hearing.
The other conversation we had in the field, I think that the question came up when we were in the field, and a couple of mitigating factors are that the trees that they planted are hybrids of native maples.
Right.
They're really beautiful trees. They're big trees. So, in a sense, they were put in without the agency's prior authorization, but they are trees that the agency typically would approve in a restoration plan. And the
Right.
second point is that they are going to be doing, where they hadn't, I don't think it was proposed in the original plan to beef up this edge with plantings below and along the base of those walls.
That's right.
So that was the conversation in the field with
Right.
these
Pulling
guys.
the lawn back, planting the
native herbaceous, you have a band of native herbaceous planting, and then you have a band of shrub planting, and then you have other understory trees. So there's a couple levels of
added protection and restoration that's being proposed there.
The problem I have is that had you brought this plan to us beforehand, those trees are fundamentally in the wetland, especially if you go look at it. And we never would have let you done it, regardless what kind of trees they were. They have no business being there, in fact. So I personally would like to see them removed, no matter how nice they are, no matter how much the applicant would like to see them as a formal alley. I think that the applicant has been egregious in his disregard of the regulations in this agency. And those never would have been allowed.
I appreciate your statements with regard to the sequence of events. Building on what Mr. Clausy said, the fact that they're not in the wetland themselves, they are native plants that, and with the additional planting that's being proposed, I think they are an enhancement at that location. And the fill that's required to establish those plants are not having an effect on the wetland at that location.
I have a question. Is somebody nobody from Mariani Construction is here tonight?
That's correct.
So maybe the rest of the agency will pardon my ignorance on this, but Bill, you went there in July of 2014. You did a lot of work.
Right.
You put a lot of markings out. You delineated very clearly all these different areas. And then the contractor just disregarded the work that you did and engaged in this activity that we're now trying to correct? I mean, and then my question would be, why isn't he here talking about the correction, and why have they sort of sucked you back in to sort of be here representing the applicant and saying, I don't have permission from the applicant to go that far or this or that, when the violation was done in connection with detailed work that you did back in July of 2014. I don't know if that's really a question, but you see where I'm going with that?
Yes. There was some of the planting along this street had been approved. It doesn't make it right, the additional planting, but I would say a third of those trees or half of those trees along Indian Spring Road were, the staff had said because of the distance away from the wetlands, those are okay to go ahead with.
But I think.
And then I can't state why they did the rest.
I mean, the yard drains that were installed,
So-
the retaining walls that are controversial, I mean, those things were not contemplated, I don't think, from when you went out and did your original work.
So my original work was to locate where the wetlands
Okay.
were. The yard drains were pre-existing from the previous owner. What they did was they extended, those yard drains had a pipe that extended below the drive that were existing. And when they built that wall, they extended those yard drains to the end of the wall. So they had existed previously, and we're pulling those back, putting them into an infiltration trench level spreader. So they were not entirely constructed as part of this.
So on the next phase, the remediation phase,
Right.
are we going to be looking to you to make sure that it's done according to the staff report? Or are we going to be looking to Mr. Mariani to do it and then possibly not have him do it?
So there's condition 2, special condition, proposed condition 2,
Right.
calls for
Qualified.
the applicant to retain someone like myself. I assume that they're going to ask me to do that.
That's a good question. We're not approving forest management. Mr. Kenny, who designed this? Who created the design on looking at putting the trees there?
That's my design.
I'm sorry?
I prepared this drawing.
I know you prepared the drawing, but who prepared the plan? Who decided, who planned to put the trees in the wetland,
Oh, the street trees. That, I did not design that.
Who did?
They have another consultant, another landscape architect, who they've retained for their more ornamental landscape.
And who is that?
I'd have to look. I'm not familiar with the firm. They're from Vermont. I may have some paperwork in my briefcase with their name.
Yeah, would you please supply us with their name?
Sure.
Because they've completely ignored our regulations. By putting the trees where they put them.
They have a lot of trees to sell.
Vermont has a lot of trees, it's true. It's true.
I
Okay,
guess-
second point. This is labeled a forest management planting plan. We have not seen a forestry management plan, and this is not to be interpreted as any sort of a recognition that this is a forestry management area.
I'm fine with however you want to word your findings. There is, as I mentioned at the last meeting, there's plans to submit from a certified forester a narrative that would go along with this planting, the proposed planting. So
But this does not qualify for a forestry exemption. This is not a farmland exemption.
we're here to fix the cease and correct and do the correction. I'm fine with however you want to characterize that.
Well, you're not disagreeing, it's not the forest management.
I would think portions of this, in the end, they're all habitat-related forest management type activities, but I'm not interested in arguing that point from a regulatory perspective. But from ecological or forest management, planting of native trees and shrubs and herbs to help restore, enhance the forest.
Well, yeah, just then I'd point out that this application, there's nothing in this application except the title of Mr. Kenny's plan that relates to any request that the agency make a determination that a permitted activity is being proposed in the forested areas of these properties.
I'd be pleased to change the title of the drawing if you'd like me to do that.
That would be good. It would avoid confusion in the future.
Quite all right.
So what do we want to happen next?
Well, I think
How many trees? I mean, if I heard you correctly, Bill, you said roughly, your interpretation was that the staff had earlier on approved, your words, roughly a third of the trees, the planting of roughly a third of the trees.
All right, where's the stake? I'll throw myself on it. Ms. Riley, I need to use that plan.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see, it was put right in front of me, so I can't see.
Well,
anything.
it just happened that you sat behind the easels.
The easel was empty when I said that.
That's it.
There we go.
Wait a minute. He's sleeping over here.
Turn it so the, thanks.
He's dreaming about his golf game.
Let them sleep.
No, the trees were on the site. I don't remember the date. It was sometime this spring.
Right.
And I believe that you came, and maybe you came alone, or Mr. Mariani contacted me, but I think it was just Mr. Kenny, and asked if they could plant all the trees. I said no. I said you could plant some of the trees, say, in this area, and some of the trees maybe in that area, which are well beyond 100 feet from the wetland, because I didn't want the trees to die. But now that maybe in hindsight might not have been a good idea, because if they wanted to plant them all in a row, looking down where the trees were going to go, as Mr. Benton has said, goes right next to the wetland.
Well, the only reason I raised the point is that arbitrarily, staff gave approval to plant some portion of the trees. All of them ended up getting planted, including those in the wetland. And I guess my question is this yet another miscommunication? I wasn't at the meeting last month, but I infer from reading the minutes that there've been a series of issues, violations. So let's say some of it's miscommunication, or we just decided we're going to do it.
We were here last week, and it's the latter.
Yes,
As far as I'm concerned,
exactly.
this has been egregious conduct
That's what
all
I
the way
inf-
through.
that's what I
The-
inferred from
The
your
only
comments.
issue, and you didn't put yourself on this statement, because you just said clearly that they weren't the plant enhancement wetland.
Right.
So to me, the only issue to debate here is it an enhancement or not? If it's not, then let's remove it. I agree with Mr. Bennett.
I would agree as well.
So, and I'm not the expert on whether it's an enhancement or not. If you want to speak more on that, go ahead. But
Right.
I still think you're obfuscating, as you did last month. I mean, it's an improvement, but that's the issue. That's the only issue.
So it is my opinion that these trees, since the fill is not in the wetland, they're native plants, with the pullback of the lawn, the addition over close 3,700 individual ferns and native grasses that we're going to be planting, over 200 shrubs, and then 65 additional trees that many of them are in the wetland, which you do approve on a regular basis. That I find this plan not to have an adverse impact on the wetlands and to be a beneficial impact. That the placement of fill outside the wetland, it will not have an effect on this.
The plan shows the basins for at least these 3 trees over on this side to be less than a foot from what you call the boundary of the wetlands.
Right.
It's egregious. It's egregious.
It shouldn't have been done.
And it shouldn't have been done, and it should be removed.
Right. I think one thing to consider is there's a road there that had a shoulder and then a slope down to the wetland. And this is in the location of that shoulder. If it was out in the middle of the woods where there was no existing road and a road that's been there for decades and decades, I think then it would be a different situation. But the fact that this is on a shoulder that's had lawn along its edge for many decades.
I think you raise an interesting point. Return it to what it was, precisely. The way it had been for decades and decades.
Along with trees.
No trees. The trees weren't there. Return it to the way it was for decades and decades.
Can I ask a question
One-sided ally?
of Mr. Kenny? What in the wetland here near those little semicircular retaining walls, what is the existing sort of vegetation in there?
It's mostly a shrub habitat, so densely vegetated with shrubs, which are mostly invasive shrubs, with an herb layer, so patchwork. There's openings where it's just herbs, and then there's thickets of shrubs. And some trees growing in there.
And in your opinion, what if this area if the retaining walls were removed, the 5 maples were removed, and I don't know whether Mr. Benton and the agency are thinking about doing the shrub and herbaceous planting or not, but if no planting was done, what would that area be in the future that has the materials been removed from?
Right. So the invasives would just continue to sprawl and take over that area with the sunlight. The shade trees will provide shade, which always helps control invasive plants, because most of the invasive plants are very sun-loving and do much better than the natives in that high sun exposure environment.
I would sum up by saying,
What do you think, Bob? Is it an enhancement or not?
I think there's no question that there was a direct impact to this wetland. One of the wetlands that was directly impacted was this one. when the fill and lack of erosion controls led to sedimentation during the rainstorm. Since the area's been stabilized, I don't believe that that's something that's going to be ongoing if the retaining walls have filter fabric behind them. It's basically going to be stable. And so looking ahead, I would say that it will be an enhancement to keep the trees and enhance the edge of pull the sod back and enhance that edge of that wetland in a way that, and a place that can be maintained. But, and I think I speak for the sense I got from Director Sesta that she felt the same way.
She did have an opportunity to review these plans in draft format before she left, and she had emailed me and said that she found that we addressed her concerns and she felt the plans were adequate. I believe that's an accurate statement. Is that right, Bob?
I could read her summary statement. Let's see. I believe the proposed work addresses many of the concerns expressed by the agency, albeit after the fact. So then she went through each of the proposed restoration features of the plan, and yeah, no, I think that was it.
Thank you, Bob. Are there any other questions for Mr. Kenny on this matter? Is there public comments or questions on this? Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to deny.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion?
Discussion is simple. This applicant has come in asking for forgiveness rather than permission. He's made a direct impact on the wetlands. He continues to change the flows by having the basins there for the trees. The trees abut and are in the review area and should be removed. Therefore, this plan is unacceptable to me and should be denied.
Any other discussion, comments?
I disagree with that. I think that, although I'm deeply disturbed by the fact that people just went ahead and did what they were going to do, I'm concerned that removal of trees, which apparently have many benefits where they're located, is going to further disrupt the wetlands. And I get a hint here and there that the request to remove the trees is punitive in nature. Maybe there should be some punitive action, but I don't think that it would go to removal of the trees.
I need to respond to that. It is not punitive in any way. The fact is that these trees would not have been permitted to begin with. There's been no testimony that removing them would be in any way deleterious to the wetlands. And since we would not have permitted them, they are in the wetland and they do have an impact, they should be removed. It is not a matter of being punitive.
Yeah, I would just say that in terms of disturbance, the disturbance is already there. So I don't see any further disturbance with removing the trees because there needs to be remediation anyway. So removing the trees isn't going to change the remediation. It's going to be there anyway. Those trees are changing the nature of the wetland. And I don't think people should be able just to come in and change a wetland for whatever reason, for aesthetics or whatever. I mean, the wetland has its own dynamics. It should be left to its own dynamics. So I think the dynamics, the original dynamics of that wetland, the biological dynamics should be restored.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? No? We have a motion on the table to deny. There's a second. It's been seconded. All in favor of that? 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion passes. All against? Any abstentions?
All right, well, I just would point out to the agency, we have a cease and correct order to fix the violations, all of these violations. So, you know, Mr. Kenny's here, perhaps the agency would like to provide him with the input that he needs to come in with an acceptable plan to do the restoration.
Well, I think a large part of Mr. Kenny's plan is acceptable. I think keeping the trees, those 5 trees at least, is unacceptable. So if the plan comes back with those trees removed, then I would probably be in favor of it.
And you need to clarify what goes in place of those trees, or how that area is treated.
It has to be remediated. It has to be returned to the way it was.
Okay. Would you be able to define what that was?
That tree is...
This tree is quite a distance away from the wetland. The wetland turns here.
I think you're talking about 4.
Assuming you can have 4. We can keep that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so moved. Bob, is there anything else needed with us on this
Pardon?
application at this point?
Yeah.
No, we'll just come back with our new applications.
No, wait.
Yeah.
Just
New application.
Okay, next
Too
item.
many, it's like-
215-075, 0 Moorhead Road, SC Minor and Company, Inc. for Moorland Lot 1 LLC for construction of a single-family residence. Driveway, in-ground pool, terraces, septic system, and drainage system.
All right, this application was delayed last month due to a couple of concerns raised by staff and the agency. The revised plans, in my opinion, address all of these concerns. Erosion control plan has been substantially enhanced, and I believe that these improvements will protect the wetland during the construction phase of the project. There is a limit of landscaping shown where a meadow will be maintained up to 130 feet from the edge of the wetland. Let's see. Now, within this area, there will be a dry detention basin constructed, but it too has been moved to the west, so it's outside the 50-foot undisturbed buffer. This is going to be demarcated with signage on posts as a permanent demarcation feature. And as staff recommended last month, the dominant species in the meadow have been identified, and they're going to be included in the seed mix that will be used to revegetate the dry basin. And a note has been added to the site plan and the other relevant plans in the plan set that any field drains that are encountered as the excavation and site work takes place on this part of the property will be brought to the attention of the project engineer, and staff will also be notified, which will give us the opportunity to figure out what to do with any drain found so that it doesn't cause sedimentation directly into the wetland by bypassing the perimeter erosion controls. The drainage system has been reviewed and found to be acceptable by DPW Engineering Division, and I therefore recommend the agency issue a permit with the conditions in the staff report.
Welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Larry Liebman, representing the applicant. We have no additional comments to what Mr. Clausen stated or any questions regarding the conditions stated in the permit.
Thank you, Larry. Any questions for Mr. Liebman? Any public comment or questions on this application? Would someone like to give a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Who seconded the motion? Bill?
That was Bill. Okay, next up is 2015-079-35 Moreland Road, SC Minor and Company, Inc. for SP Greenwich Moreland LLC for demolition and construction of a new single-family residence, driveway, in-ground pool, terraces, septic system, and drainage system.
This is a very similar staff report to the one I just presented. Erosion control plan has been improved. Limit of landscaping is now shown a minimum of 100 feet from the edge of the wetland with a permanent demarcation feature set at 50 feet within that area. The field drain note has been added to the relevant plans, and I guess the only question Mr. Liebman might be able to address this evening is what effect, whether it's feasible to shift the development envelope further to maintain more of the functionally significant meadow. I guess my question on this one wasn't so much about the meadow as it was about the amount of site work that might, how the site work quantities of cut and fill might change if the house was shifted to the west over here a little bit. In my opinion, that's not a deal breaker. I have conditions of approval in the staff report.
Thank you, Bob. Welcome.
Thank you, Larry Liebman, rep for SC Minor, representing the applicant. If you look at the property, the pie-shaped piece of property, shifting everything to the west runs the issue of making it very, very tight with zoning. I would prefer to have it that they had some wiggle room instead of saying that they were right up against the setback lines as far as that's concerned. The meadow is being protected. We have over 100 feet of meadow that's going to be protected. This is the design that the applicant has desired. It is an interesting thing because it's a pie-shaped lot and we're meeting with zoning. We're meeting the zoning requirements.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Liebman? Any public questions or comments? Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Motion approved.
Motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, is the second on that? Okay. New applications, application number 2015-083, 171 Clabbered Ridge Road, Frisco, Van Riesma, for Boys and Girls Club of Greenwich to conduct an annual trail run event.
Not that one. Not that one. Yeah, that's bad. Is it?
The Boys and Girls Club didn't give me the funds to be able to make a nice chart here, but
Right. Well, this is a kind of a unique application in my experience here. The Boys and Girls Club runs for the last couple of years has run an annual trail adventure run that attracts several hundred people. Last year, I think it was like 700. To do a 5K run through their 77-acre Camp Simmons property. And because a lot of this course is through wetlands and watercourses, literally through them, the former director, Michael Chambers, who is a friend of the Boys and Girls Club, reached out to them and said, look, let's legitimize this, let's get this, get some best management practices in place during your event so that we minimize any short-term impacts to wetlands and watercourses and try to eliminate any downstream impacts to off-site wetlands and watercourses. Last year, I met with Friezo out at the course prior to the event. We talked about things that could be done. He implemented those measures. I re-inspected the course the afternoon after they'd run the event, made some new recommendations based on the actual experience of seeing how the things held up, how the course held up. And those lessons have been incorporated into the application packet that you have. I think this is a good opportunity for the agency to actually do outreach to the public in years to come as this event is run in the future by having sediment erosion controls, trail water bars installed, certain other measures, perhaps have staff on site to explain what's going on. And I think it will be something that we'll actually learn a lot from in the future as these things are run and get better and better at minimizing short-term impacts. As far as long-term impacts, I was pretty impressed walking the course, not just the day after or the afternoon after, but a couple of weeks later I went back out there. And even in areas of sort of floodplain where skunk cabbage had been just sprouted for, in preparation for the winter and then the spring flush, the skunk cabbage might have been knocked over, but it was not destroyed. It was not damaged. So it's a pretty resilient system, and I think the agency can feel confident that issuing a permit and getting staff on site before and after future events will ensure that it's maintained in the future. I recommend the agency issue a permit. Pardon me?
Did you run it?
Following Friezo around, it was like running. The guy walks very fast.
Next year, he said.
When is it? When is that?
It'll be in the first weekend of October, so first Sunday of October.
Is there somebody responsible for removing the bales, for storing the?
Yes. Yeah.
Someone is actually tasked with doing that consistent with not impacting wetlands?
We will have, so the main focus of our course committee, so we have a couple of different committees in the course committee, which includes Roberto Fernandez, a board member, as well as some good friends that have helped in the past with building obstacles. Our main focus this year will be on the remediation aspects of the course. So we will definitely be tasked with following up pre-race, post-race with the expertise of the staff.
You get Chambers involved?
Love to.
Put him to work.
He needs a job.
It's about time.
I think it's a great idea to have staff there
Yeah,
It's
throughout the process.
I think
really.
we should field our own team amongst the board.
Do you know how
Okay.
many people will run the course?
So 700 ran it last year. We have staggered starts.
Oh, okay.
The total attendance was probably closer to 1,000 people up top. And so it is a great forum to be able to speak about what you're doing for the Boys and Girls Club, but also for other organizations. So we have the EMT, the fire department, police department, all very visible, active, and voicing their mission.
Do you have a upward limit of the number of runners that can register for this event?
We do. It hasn't been set yet, but we definitely will set one based on
Is
recommendations.
that something, because, I mean, I've run the Leatherman's Loop up in Pound Ridge, and that went from a small race to gigantic in just a couple of years, because people like to do mud runs. And so this could quickly become something that would have major impacts if we don't have a cap on the number of runners that can be registered.
The runner experience, like probably you've experienced as well on a single track, is definitely compromised with more individuals. So we want to keep it to a manageable amount of people, even if you have those staggered starts. You definitely want a certain flow to go through, so you're not actually walking. To give you an idea about the race, the first start is a quick group that goes off about 30 to 40 individuals. And then you have a group that goes off that's more focused on doing it as a team, because you have a couple of little obstacles that you do with others, so there's some team building. And then that usually is a group of about 300 individuals that we cut in half, because the teams do clog up some of the obstacles. And the last group is a family kids run, and they take a lot longer to go through the course. But we were also looking at how that impacts the wetlands as well, where instead of running through it and barely touching it, you're walking through it, and that impacts it more. So we're trying to think about how the racer experience with the environmental experience, how that's balanced, so to speak, to keep everything the way it should be.
Thank you. Any other agency questions? Are there public questions or comments on this application? Someone like to make a motion?
Second.
Jim seconds, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, next up, 2015-084, 12 Ballwood Road, Frangione Engineering LLC for AMAG Properties LLC for demolition and construction of new single-family residence.
Right. This application is currently a modest house and a cottage on this property. House footprint is here. This is Ballwood Road up here. And the cottage is here. The wetland line is down here. It's a wetland watercourse corridor. Water comes across from the other side of Ballwood down into a town-owned property and eventually out underneath Lighthouse Lane to Long Island Sound. So as you can see from the plan, the proposal is to build a much larger house. They want to maintain the cottage. They've got a driveway layout at the present time coming around this way to the garage over here. This driveway is supposed to be pervious pavement. They also have an infiltration system here to handle the increase in impervious coverage. The DPW Engineering Division has requested the applicant's engineer meet with them to discuss some issues with separating distance between the bottom of the infiltrators and groundwater ledge, ditto with the pervious driveway. And I think I attached a copy of those comments to your staff report. Now, the original application plan, this is a revision. Original application plan had a retaining wall that came all the way out here and filled all in here. And when I showed this to the director, we both agreed that probably the smartest thing to do would be to go to public hearing because of the, just that amount of activity within what is currently a lawn, but it's also the immediately adjacent to the wetland. And we felt that it would probably have a significant impact on the wetland. Well, now this plan has eliminated that wall, eliminated the fill. There's still a little retaining wall here on this side of the property, but the separating distance now between the house and the wetland is, plus or minus 25 feet at a minimum. So, they're moving it back into the realm of what I would consider reality. Now, I'm still concerned about the application. This is a large house. I don't know how they're going to handle materials, where they're going to be doing stockpiling. There's no indication that there's going to be any restoration of what is parts of the wetland that are maintained as lawn right now, let alone any of this lawn buffer. The wetland itself is, there was some indication on the plan that they were going to clean the watercourse. There are no details as to what that meant. Are they going to just, sort of scrape out the herbaceous vegetation that's sort of clogging it? Are they going to, what are they going to do? How are they going to do it? How are they going to move water around this while they do it? So there were still a number of outstanding issues. And I want, like Mr. Frangione, to clarify for me what it is, what kind of variance they're seeking, and whether from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and whether this layout is contingent upon getting a zoning variance, or is this the layout that they can do without a zoning variance? So at a minimum, I recommend the agency delay this. However, there has been some public interest in the application. We have not received a petition. We have received a letter, which I believe I sent with your packets, asking that the agency consider this a matter of, in the public interest, to hold a public hearing on. If the agency wants to go to a public hearing, I can give you the dates by which we would have to do so. In my opinion, because of the way that this agency handles public meeting matters, the public is free to speak at our meetings, unlike a lot of towns where a public meeting, the public does not speak. In those towns, if the public really wants to speak, they push it to a public hearing. So I think we can probably get the same input from the neighbors through the regular meeting process, but I'll leave that up to the agency.
Good evening. For the record, Rob Frangione with Frangione Engineering. With me tonight is Bob Pellicano, the owner. I agree with Mr. Clausey about the issue of a public hearing. I mean, there's really no, as far as I know, no difference between a public meeting, public hearing, except the court reporter. If you care to elaborate that for my client's edification, I think we can accomplish the same end result through the public meeting process as the public hearing process. I have.
There is a difference.
I know there's a difference, but
Substantive difference that's
if you could
spelled
explain
out-
that to my client,
spelled
that
out
would be
in the
great.
Well, you can read the regulations, but there is a substantial difference. My question is on this letter, is this representing one property owner? It says on behalf of the property owners of 11 Ledge Road. What does that mean?
That's all that they can claim. I mean, I think they say they've spoken to their neighbors, but they're only writing on their own behalf.
Single
Yes.
property.
Yes.
And as far as I know, 11 Ledge isn't one of the abutting properties. It's across the street on Ledge Road from one of the abutting properties, so I'm not quite sure the rationale there. But, I mean, I guess my point is, should I continue now, or if we're going to go to public hearing, should I not bother presenting? That's the other reason I bring it up now. My client would prefer not to go to public hearing. And we can begin the process tonight. And I have a meeting on Wednesday with Scott Marucci to go over the drainage.
Well, one thing's about public hearings that there's, the abutters are notified. Have the abutters been notified in writing?
Yes, they've been notified about this meeting, yes.
Ms. Frangione, the deck,
Yes.
is 10 feet from the wetlands.
And there's an existing cottage that is 6 feet off of the wetlands. There's the utilities that run to that
The
run along.
The cottage is down by the property line. We're
Yes.
talking about the deck on the proposed dwelling, which is now 10 feet, whereas the old dwelling that you're going to remove was 35 feet.
Yes, and the deck is going to be just an open wood deck on piers. There's no fill associated with it. It's
No
going to be
shade?
open underneath. Well, there'll
No
be some,
shade?
it is going to be up at elevation 14.5, and the ground is at about elevation 7.6. So there is sufficient height underneath it for light to get under, through it. It's going to be
And for
grass
things to be
underneath
stored
it.
under it.
I mean, people can
It is a
store.
construction that is 10 feet from the wetland. It is a structure that is 10 feet from the wetlands. The dwelling itself is 25 feet from the wetlands, whereas the original structure is 35 feet from the wetlands, so you're getting closer to the wetlands.
Yes.
The amount of disturbance, it looks like you're going to disturb almost the entire property to the west of the wetlands.
A good portion of it, yes. I mean, the existing driveway is proximate to the wetlands. It's about 8 feet away from the wetlands. We're keeping that same curb cut. The circular driveway will come around. The driveway will come to the west side of the property, furthest away from the wetlands. We didn't dare to put the driveway on the east side of the property, right next to the wetlands. The garage is on the south side of the parcel. That's only going to be 1.5 stories. That's so that it can help some of the views of some of the other neighbors, so that they're not looking at 2.5 stories right in that corner of the parcel. That's why the garage is where the garage is. There is no buffer now. It's all lawn up to the wetlands.
Is this subject to a variance approval, or is this the final?
Here's the issue about the variance. Ballwood is a street side yard. If we treat that as a street side yard, the required setback is 30 feet. We're proposing about 30.8, so we don't need a variance on the Ballwood side. It's the Lillian Place side. Lillian Place is a paper road. It's a right-of-way with no road on it. Originally, when I first met with Scott Marucci, we talked about putting the driveway on Lillian Place. My client actually owns, or has the rights to half of Lillian Place to put in a road or driveway. And when I spoke with Scott, what he said was, well, if you do that, we're going to make you build the road out. And so he says, you may want to think about putting the driveway on your property. He says, I'd have to talk to, the powers at planning and zoning and so on and so forth. But that was the way that they were going to have us go. And there's a big 30-inch tree right at the end of Lillian Place. No one, including my client, wanted to build a road or take that tree down. So we said, okay, let's shift the driveway back onto the property. We can do pervious asphalt, and we can have it come along and go into the garage in the back. That setback to Lillian Place is 47.5 feet, because the 35-foot front yard setback, half the deficiency is 12.5. That brings us to 47.5. We're proposing only about 35.9 from the front, from the house to the street, which is would be your standard 35-foot front yard setback. If we were to push the house back to the full 47.5, it would still, it's not that much of a shift, but then the house would be 16 to 17 feet off the wetland. So we thought it was prudent to go for the variance, bring it forward, and keep the house further away from the wetlands. So could we do this without a variance? Probably. Is it better with the variance? Yes.
Well, you probably couldn't do it without the variance because you're pushing it into the wetland.
Well, no, the house wouldn't go in the wetlands, it would just be closer to it. In which case, the deck then would probably be hanging out of it, so that would have to change. But, again, the back, and the reason that the original plan had walls going along it and everything was the architect thought they had to raise the grade for grade plane, and I explained to them the rule about how in a flood zone, you don't have to raise it. If you're in the AE zone, you just have to go 2 feet below the AE zone. That counts as your grade plane. So he was able to adjust the building heights and everything to make that work. So the fill along that side of the structure became moot and unnecessary. So he pulled it out.
Unfortunately, I think the whole building is too close to the wetlands.
Again, in zones like this, in the R12, it's not unheard of to have reduced setbacks to wetlands.
Yeah, I was out there this afternoon, that's a very nice little wetland. It's there. And you're going to be building the deck out to 10 feet, you're going to probably be forcing traffic down through that space between the deck and the wetlands, so that'll increase traffic.
My client has offered, we spoke before the meeting, to put in a demarcation fence, a split rail fence along the wetland edge, a little bit into the grass, to prevent foot traffic into the wetland.
A little bit into the grass.
Yes, between the house and the wetland edge.
Well, but the wetland edge is in the grass, right?
Where the wetland flags are, in the grass between the wetland flags and the house. Does that make more sense?
You don't want to put the fence in the wetland.
Yes.
Put it on the lawn.
He's going to put the lawn is in the wetland.
Well, then we can do some restoration on the
he'll
backside.
err on the
Yes.
I'll
lawn
tell you
side
what,
of the
if you're
fence.
going to put the fence along the wetland flag line and
On the house
restore
side.
on the house side and restore between that fence and the wetland, I might reconsider the deck. I might.
Well, we know we're coming back next month because we don't have the means to move forward. So my client is here, and I'm sure he is listening, and we'll take that into consideration.
So you're looking for a demarcation feature and essentially a restoration plan.
Right.
Between that-
between the wetland flags and the drainage channel. Right?
I have some questions about trees.
Okay.
You're taking out the silver maple?
Which one's that? Is that the one next to the deck?
Yes. It looks to me as though you're going to do that.
Yes.
It's a big, beautiful.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the tree that you were speaking of on the fictitious road, is that the Norway maple that's been kind of distorted by?
It just says
the
30-inch
utilities?
D on the plan. I
Oh,
don't
so you
know.
haven't seen
I
it?
don't know what species that is. I mean, I've seen it because I've been to the property, but I'm not sure if that's the tree I speak of.
I think that's probably one that it is. And then, looking at the property, I see that there is a stump to the west of the house of a tree that was removed within recent history at any rate. But that just brings me to a concern that I have, that aren't going to be any trees left on this property, other than one that's been mangled by the utility.
There will be the one next to the cottage on the southwest side. That tree will stay. Obviously, the trees in the wetlands are going to stay. We have no
But they don't.
no desire to go into the wetlands and cut down
There's
trees.
nothing at all like the ones, well, the silver maple is probably not the best of health, but it's a good tree. And that's the one that's.
Yeah, I believe the soil scientist was talking about the roots are pretty shallow on that. They're up on the surface, so it could kind of blow over at any given
No, I understand.
storm. So.
But I'm not a champion of the silver maple tree in particular, but I'm just saying that, yeah, the trees seem to be all going to disappear from this property. Big ones.
Okay. Is
So
there any
this is a
other,
delay.
is there any public comment or questions on this application? I guess the question becomes if we feel, one, does it need to move to public hearing at this point? Or is it a delay of, is it just simply a delay until next month?
Getting a planting plan for the.
Right.
Is that the only issue?
I mean, there isn't a, there aren't,
No other.
We have no,
we don't have the requisite number of signatories, so it comes down to whether it's in the public interest sufficiently, an application sufficiently in the public interest. I'd be inclined to say not.
I would tend to agree with you on that.
Well, given that the writer of the letter didn't.
Sorry? Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned.
Please stand close to the microphone.
Carmen, please state your name.
Patricia Shackner. I live in one of the properties that literally goes along Lillian Place.
Okay.
What is
And-
the address?
Well, they call it Four Ledge Road, but it's Lillian Place. It's not on Ledge. It's in the middle between Ledge and Ballwood.
Is it over here, ma'am? This is Lillian?
Yep,
And so it's a
well.
sort of at the end of that little gravel driveway, which is not shown on the plan. I'm just,
I don't know where,
okay, forget it. I'm sorry.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, yes, that's
Okay.
my,
All right, so it's the abutting property over sort of
right.
in this area.
Well, a little more further down it too.
Okay. How
Okay.
about that?
I can't tell the area. I sure would think that everybody would like that property to be developed into something more pleasant than it is right now. It's in decrepit shape and it's not being lived in for quite a while. And that whole lot is water. And my concern is when it gets developed, hopefully that the flooding that takes place will be abated by the engineer's plans. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know. What you call a paper road is virtually my front yard. And it's 12 feet of easement on our side, supposedly, and 12 feet on the other, which is not a very wide space. And after that, it's my front door, pretty close to the easement. And that was originally a utility easement. Our utilities go down that easement. Our water is from Ballwood and comes into us. Our other utilities come in from Ledge. So we do have a major interest in what happens on that lot. I don't want to make it difficult for a builder to make it nice, but I'm worried about the flooding. I'm worried about the closeness. And I've had a very comfortable discussion with the builder. And I'm hoping that he's willing to work with all the neighbors, but we were not notified. We were only notified of the engineer's plan, and we came down and looked at it. But we weren't personally notified as an abutting property, which I kind of objected to until I did speak with the builder. He happened to be on site, so that was good. But after this, we would like to be in the circle of information. And I don't know what else I can tell you. I just have those concerns. I'm very nervous about it, as you can tell.
Could you discuss a little bit your experience? You characterize it as flooding in that property?
There's a flooding problem on Ballwood and on Ledge Road, and it comes down through the drain system that is not efficiently working. And I think that system is in great need of care. And there's a, I've lived in that property for about 38 years, and I've watched things take place. I sit high.
Is it the catch basins that just back up?
Oh, they more than back up. And that lot floods very poorly, very, very badly. What is, the lawn's green because it gets well watered. So I'm sure the builder has a lot to have to deal with if he wants to develop it into more than it is. It's a very modest house that's there right now. And when the proposed building is going to come up and be rather looming, that I know that happens when these lots get redeveloped after they've been sitting there for so many years. My house is 117, so it was one of the old originals. But I know that things have taken place in that wetlands area that should never have taken place. And now somebody's going to want to kill me. They're not in this room, I don't think.
Ms. French, I need to make sure that
Yes, Again, we're working with Scott Marucci to resolve the drainage. with the site
That's a
plan.
big issue
But
for me,
the other
because we
issue
don't
is-
flood from that,
Yeah.
and I don't want to have
More
that
a
happen.
notification question.
Oh, notification,
sorry.
yes, she was
Oh,
notified.
yes.
She's on the list of abutters, and I've
Well,
got the,
Well, we got just a letter
mhm.
from, but that was it, and nothing else. We didn't get it from the builder. We got it saying we could come down or we could be in touch with Town Hall. So I did come down and look.
Right, and my
But
letterhead
of
was on
course,
it.
the report was beyond my comprehension, but I did look at it, and I got a little excited when I saw the containment that's right up in front of me on my property, close to, and I was
I'll be glad to
assured
talk to you
that that will go the other way. And if it goes the other way, then it'll go to the ledge and the Ballwood section that's below me. Too bad for them if that doesn't work.
Well, again, part of the drainage issue there, if you could look at the top, it says catch basin full of debris.
Yeah.
The catch basin
That's
needs
a
to be
given.
cleaned out.
Yeah.
There's silt built up at the outfall
Yeah.
of the head wall. That's part of the cleaning that we're going to do in the drainage ditch, is to hopefully help fix that, so that we don't get it's not backing up on Ballwood onto other parcels.
And so, just so you know, Mr. Frangione's job is to make sure that any drainage that is on that property stays on the property. That you're not exacerbating the system. But my advice to you would be to if you do have concerns, go to the variance meeting, the zoning variance meeting, and raise your concerns there as well. Are there any other public questions or comments? I'd like to entertain a motion.
Motion, delay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you. See you soon.
Okay, moving along. Application BC 2015-086, 25 Morgan Avenue, pools by Murphy for Brian and Terry Smith for construction of an in-ground pool.
All right, the applicant is proposing to construct an in-ground swimming pool with a surrounding deck to the rear of the residence. It's a pretty straightforward plan. There's a beautiful mature tree in the backyard that's not shown on the plan that should be protected with orange construction fencing during the construction activity. Also, the current plan does not show the location of the pool equipment pad or the fencing for the pool. And so this should be shown in detail on a plan coming forward. A drainage exemption form hasn't been submitted for review by staff, so staff is recommending that the agency delay this application.
Okay, thank you, Doreen. Is there anyone from the applicant here? Okay. Any public questions or comments? Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to delay?
Very good. Jim seconds, all in favor? Application 2015-088, 29 Beechcroft Road, S.C. Minor and Company, for Isabel Shibby and Andre Reporter for construction of an in-ground pool cabana, and patio.
All right, the proposed improvements here are to the northeast of the existing residence. The area is currently maintained as a level lawn, and let's see, they're going to basically attenuate the increase in impervious area by picking up roofs from the other end of the house and putting them into 3 different Cultec infiltrator systems. The whole site drains to the same place, so there's really into Reynolds Pond, so the fact that they're not doing something here but doing here is not an issue. DPW has found the plan to be acceptable, and I'd note it reduces the runoff through the 50-year storm and peak volumes through the 100-year storm, so it's beyond what, the drainage manual requires. The other good point about this application is they do have a restoration plan for some of this lawn buffer here to the northeast of the pool complex. And the only thing I'd say is I'd recommend that some markings be set along not just the edge of this, but the edge of the existing mostly herbaceous, but there's some shrubs in here, buffer along the edge of Reynolds Pond. It's a nice buffer, and the property owners seem to be maintaining it without any disturbance, but going forward, it would be good to have some markers there so that landscapers and things don't get in where they shouldn't be. Let's see. Oh, I guess when I wrote the report, DPW had not completed their review, but they have at this point.
Yes,
So I'd recommend the agency issue a permit with the conditions in the staff report.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Mr. Lehman, welcome.
Again, Larry Lehman from SE Minor, representing the applicant. We have no objection to adding some form of demarcation feature, whether it be placards or something else. When we did this project originally, we restored a large part of the buffer, and now we're restoring more. We have no objection to comments as presented by staff, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Leitman on this application by the agency? No? Any public questions or comments? Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Motion approved.
Approved, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Stefan seconds, all in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, application 2015-089, 16 Knollwood Drive, Rockley, DeAndrea, for Stefan and Linda Munger for demolition and construction of a new single-family residence.
Okay, this application, this is a 2-acre parcel in the R1 zone. Currently has a house sort of tucked in between this big rock outcropping here and some other rocks here. The house loops around in this area. Now they'd like to take that house out, build a larger house here with a pool in the back. The current house has a pool too up here. There will be a fairly substantial increase in impervious coverage of over 5,000 square feet. DPW has not accepted the design completely. They think in concept it's okay, but they are looking for some deep tests and hydraulic conductivity tests in the vicinity of the infiltration system here. I understand from correspondence I got today that the DPW understands that in order to do those tests, they have to go through like an existing driveway, so they're willing to hold off on requiring the results until before the issuance of a building permit. That information came in after this report was prepared. Now, that was a fairly minor issue in my opinion. More major issue is the amount of rock and site work that will be done up on top of this hill to do this new house and other improvements. There'll be a net cut of about 2,250 cubic yards of material, a lot of it rock. I had asked the applicant to provide north, south, east, west cross sections, which I just received today, and I'll hand these out. Sorry, didn't have them available last week to go out with your packets. I guess Mr. DeAndrea could probably speak to what he thinks are the important points of these plans. I would just, again, this illustrates that to me, that there's going to be a pretty significant cut out of this rock to get this corner of the house in there. And this is a very steep slope down to this sort of floodplain portion of the wetland. I did make the point that the erosion control plan only had a single row of silt fence sort of running around the base of the hill. Obviously, with this much site work, that's not sufficient. I also, but I mean, just the very amount of work, I think we need to give this a little more attention, and Mr. DeAndrea can help us understand what this means. The only other thing I'd say is that they did give us a landscaping plan. It shows sort of like a buffer of shrubs and screening evergreens around the base of the hill here. I had asked for some sort of a plan to stabilize this watercourse corridor. There's erosion, there's sediment coming in from Knollwood through the culvert. All of these banks through here are eroded. Some of the edges, the edges of the watercourse are bare soil. Tree roots are very badly exposed along here, so there's been a lot of runoff and erosion into this watercourse. There's slumping and bank erosion all through the watercourse, and so I'd like to see some sort of a restoration plan for the watercourse, given the scope of work that they're proposing up here. Final point is the pool fence is shown coming off of the retaining wall here and running right along the edge of the wetland to tie back into the corner of the house. Whereas in the front, it runs along the top of the wall. I don't know why they can't either run it along the wall over here or run it sort of somewhere further from the wetland so that the landscape envelope is more clearly defined closer to the house. But I recommend the agency delay this until we get some of this additional information and we've had a chance to look at these cross sections and understand them.
Thank you, Bob.
All good comments, and we recognize that the delay is appropriate in this case. With me tonight is Cheryl Brown, who's from the landscape architect firm Doyle Herman Design Associates, and she could be more specific in response to the design of the site. However, we did concentrate on the drainage. I think the drainage is acceptable to DPW to be consistent with our drainage manual. The only thing that's lacking in that regard is the additional test pit. We discussed with Scott Marucci the fact that the galleries will be placed in an area where we will be placing fill, so the concern for the depth of that hole is not so significant. However, in the interim, we have agreed to dig a test hole adjacent to the driveway, and he'll accept that as reasonably accurate for the conditions under the driveway. Well, I wasn't aware until just now about the issue of the restoration, but we'll work with Bob and DPW perhaps to determine what we can do to stem some of that flow into the system, which is obviously coming from off-site from the public roadway. And we'll work with our landscape architect team to see if we can work that out. Additional silt fence, not a problem. The cross-sections have been done as soon as we were advised that they were required. The landscape architect did prepare those, and so they're in your file now. We'll strengthen those with a little more information. I think Barbara's just heard what we need to do to strengthen the landscape plan, and we'll talk about relocating the fence. So I think those are all good comments. I think we can resolve them in the next couple of weeks and hopefully have a favorable review at the end of the month. If there's any other concern, of course, I'd like to hear it now.
Do you have any agency questions for Mr. DeAndrea or comments at this point in time? I think Bob's comments were.
Well understood.
And, yeah, it's a lot to take in, especially when you see these, how much you're actually removing.
Right.
into the film. Okay.
Understood.
Any public questions or comments? We have a motion on this?
Motion to lay.
Is there a second? Jim seconds, all in favor? See you next time.
Thank you.
Can I ask you all to save these two plans so that we don't have to send them back to you next month?
No, yes.
Bob, 88 and 89, or just this one?
Just this one.
88, no, 88 was approved. You can recycle that one.
Okay. Next item, okay. 2015-090, 35 Willow Road, Rocco V. DeAndrea, Inc., for Michael and Ann Reed for construction of a residential addition and an in-ground pool.
All right, the applicant, as I state in the staff report, proposes to do some fairly significant improvements on this property. It's about 7/10 of an acre. I appreciate the fact that the design has been broken into two phases, so we don't have to ask for something like that. The first phase will be the construction of the pool and patio complex behind the house. Second phase would be the elimination of this large driveway motor court behind the house, relocation of the driveway to the west, and construction of both a second floor and a bump-out addition on this western side of the house. Both phases have standalone drainage systems that, for instance, if only the pool and patio were built and this second phase doesn't occur, this drainage system that is associated with this phase can handle the drainage load of that new impervious coverage. Likewise, this phase increases some of that and adds a whole other system under this new driveway. I originally was going to recommend delay because this driveway system, there was an issue with separating distance to, I think it was ledge or groundwater, one or the other.
Ledge.
But a workaround has been devised that the engineering division is satisfied with. They found this plan now to be acceptable. And from my point of view, because the revised plan will not require any additional fill near this new driveway, which would be adjacent to the watercourse, will not require the driveway to be raised at all. I think it's also acceptable. So the only other thing I'd ask is if Mr. DeAndrea has any information about where the limit of lawn will
Right.
be.
But what I would answer to that, Bob, is that the photographs, I think, very well, show it very well, that there is a very dense landscaping strip all the way along that watercourse. So suffice it to say, while we inherited the topographic survey, we can update that for the record to show you where it is, but the intent of the owners is to maintain all the existing vegetation. And again, the photographs, I think, are good evidence of what's there now, and that's the intent. So on our final construction plan, if you're so inclined to approve it tonight, we'll add that limit of lawn to document where it is. But it's a very dense planting condition now, and that is intended to stay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, very nicely done. And the big advantage on this particular plan is that ultimately that extensive driveway behind the house is removed. And once Phase 1 is complete, the drainage for that is in and will not be disturbed in order to add the addition underneath the driveway.
And I just as an aside, I'd say that this is not the first sort of concept or plan I've seen for doing some improvements on this property, and the other plans were, I mean, I had people coming in asking could they pipe the watercourse, and could they do other things that were, you know, just told them to go back to the drawing board, so they did.
So, Bob, just so I understand, so the driveway doesn't need to be lifted.
Correct.
Does that mean that then these topo lines aren't?
No, it was a matter of inches, really, with the discussion with Scott. So it became apparent that we have the stone that's available for that additional storage, so we don't have to lift the driveway. And it was only, you know, a marginal amount anyway.
Okay.
So I recommend the agency issue a permit. I've given you conditions of approval in the supplemental staff report dated July 15th.
Are there any other questions for Mr. DeAndre? Any public comment or questions on this application? Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve with the special conditions as stated. Second.
Okay, Bill seconded, all in favor?
Thank you.
Next up, 2015-091, 117 Bible Street, Frangio Engineering LLC for Clark and Brook Enterprises LLC for construction of a single-family residence.
Okay, back in 2005, the agency issued a conceptual approval for this two-lot subdivision. The only wetland on the properties is this little depressional wetland here, which is next to the existing driveway that serviced a house that sat up here, and, you know, the back of the lot. So the application before you this evening is to develop parcel A, which is the front lot, and develop the common driveway that would service the two properties. That driveway will follow pretty much the existing line of the driveway. It will be lifted in places, including along the edge of this wetland. So there'll be a low retaining wall built here with a pipe that will allow for drainage relief of high water in the wetland to the north as it overtops the existing driveway now. Except for the construction of the retaining wall and driveway and protection of the wetland during the trafficking back and forth to do the site development, this project poses very little potential impact to this wetland. The vegetation in the wetland right now, there's one pretty good sized sweet gum in the middle of it, and the rest of it is just herbaceous. It's not a vernal pool. Let's see, Mike Chambers, when he reviewed the two-lot subdivision, he made a recommendation about how the shoulders of the driveway should be maintained on either side of the wetland post-development, and I think that those are good comments about not having turf grass along that stretch of those two areas drain directly into the wetland. Now, I've talked about the drainage system for this parcel is a Cultec infiltrator system to the northwest of the house, and pervious pavers in the, pervious asphalt rather, in the driveway. DPW, when I wrote this report back on the 11th of July, they were still reviewing the plans. They've completed their review at this point to, and have asked for a lot and asked to meet with the project engineer because there are other issues involved in this subdivision, including the fact that a lot of the drainage runs this way and then back under the driveway toward Arrowhead Lane here. And none of this, these details were sort of provided completely in this new plan, and so we need to have that fleshed out. Okay, now, when I went out to look at the site for this application review, just the week before, the assistant compliance officer went out after a report and found that trees had been cleared from a lot of the site. In particular, my focus was right here, and I counted about 6 canopy trees that had been taken down, varying in size. Some of them were pretty big size, some were not that big. So I had, when I wrote this on the 11th, I didn't know whether DPW would have a favorable review. Well, we know they didn't, so I'm not recommending approval, but I do want I recommend that if we ever get to the point of approval, planting plan be submitted. Perhaps that could be submitted ahead of time now to put some trees back in here to restore a canopy over the edges of the wetland where it's been removed.
So Bob, do we have a violation on this property then?
No.
But aren't they removing stuff in the buffer zone?
Yes, they did. They aren't removing it. They did remove some.
Isn't that a
trees.
violation?
They got ahead of themselves, yes.
It's a violation. Yes or no, sir?
Yeah, it's a violation.
You're a violator.
Well, I've been called worse. For the record, Rob Frangione, Frangione Engineering. With me tonight is Pat Clark, owner of the property. I have a meeting on Wednesday with Scott Marucci to go over the drainage. Most of the stuff that he has on here is pertaining to the original subdivision. Originally, the plan was to take the lot on the northwest, and there was supposed to have been a detention basin, and then there's a farmer's drain on the southwest, and there was connectivity to that. That's no longer an option. So a lot of the comments relating to that in the DPW comments, they're just going to go away because they're not possible at this point. Really, the topic of our conversation on Wednesday is going to be about separation distances to ledge and groundwater for the pervious asphalt and the Coltex. We have no issue with the meadow mix on the south side or the planting of cover trees along the periphery of the wetland. I guess we just request a delay until next month.
I guess I'm just a little confused as to whether or not we should be dealing with a violation before we consider the application again at this point.
And do we need a formal remediation plan? I mean, or is he just going to say he's going to plant a few canopy trees?
Well, there's as I said, I wrote this on the 11th, not
Right.
having complete information.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend that, we should get a restoration plan ahead of time that the agency could look at and see if it's acceptable as part of this review.
Bob, I guess the question is, if there weren't an application before us now, and you were told that people were cutting down trees from the periphery of the wetland, wouldn't you come in with a violation requesting a cease and correct?
Yes, Mr. Benton, but because the application had been filed, I thought it was more efficacious to put the whole thing before the agency. If you don't want to do it like that, we can do it another way.
Well, See, the problem I have right now is if the applicant says, oh, the hell with it, I'm going to withdraw the application, then we have nothing.
Well, I can tell you we're not withdrawing the application. My client's sitting right there. He's not going to withdraw the application tonight. So.
I love your dress in the parking lot.
Come.
With the violation. Maybe it will pull on Tony too.
Anyways, you know,
Would you
I went in.
would you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, Patrick Clark. I live at 7 Arrowhead Lane, and I'm involved in the development of this two-lot parcel. Bob has been extremely cooperative. I met with Bob on several occasions. We went in there, and he said, Pat, to move forward, you should really do it in 2 phases. We elected to go Phase 1, which was removal of the a lot of ledge at the sight lines out on Bible Street, and bringing the utilities up to the area where the wetlands is, where the 2 lots, you know, subdivide. So we went ahead, I got permits for that. Actually, excavation is taking place now at the sight lines out on Bible Street, which is a good, I don't know what it is, 300 feet from where the wetlands is. I called the tree department, and I told them that I was going to clear the lot. And I asked them, do I need any special permits? And they said no. They looked at the whatever information they had, and they said no. So I went ahead and contracted to remove the trees. And first and foremost, the little area of wetlands is less than, I don't know, 1,000 square feet. It's really not in anywhere near the development of the 2 homes. It does come up near the driveway. I cut trees that are up on like a ledge, you know, that's sits 10 feet higher than where the actual floor of the wetlands is, which, by the way, is beyond me how they consider this wetlands, but it was tested as such, so I guess it is. The land goes contours like that. Anyways, we cut the trees, and the 2 of them that we cut, they were rotted to begin with. The thing was like hollowed out. I think Bob could attest to that. The other limbs were all rotted, so I didn't think we did anything in any way, shape, or form. You know, I was warned, God forbid, don't touch anything near the wetlands. We didn't. A neighbor's tree had fallen into the wetlands. We dragged that out of there. It was a dead tree, not a very large tree. But that was it. And, you know, I was hopeful that I'm on a tight schedule that it is. We delayed this project for a number of years because of market conditions. Financially, I wasn't in a position to do it. I didn't want to take the risk. Now I am, and we're hopeful to expedite things. We're going to do two houses at the same time. The Phase 1 excavation hopefully will be completed within 30 days. We're hopeful to jump right onto Parcel A, which most of the excavation will be. Parcel B is limited, and you know, if I can answer any questions, that'd be great. I just was hopeful not to get further delays. And that's really it, you know, I am.
Well, we're going to see you next month anyways.
Pardon?
We're going to see you next month.
Yeah, I guess, so.
Yeah, so,
I mean,
go ahead.
But, and part of that is, the one thing that we are going to want to see then is a restoration plan for that area around the wetland where it was cut.
Yeah, I think DPW recommended couple shade trees on the east and west side, which is no issue at all.
No,
So
Bob
anything.
can help with that.
Yeah, talk to
Bob,
Wetlands,
whatever, Bob. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public questions or comments? Would you like to make a motion?
I have a
Sure.
comment. I would advise Mr. Frangione and Mr. Clark, Mr. Frangione to advise Mr. Clark, don't put the utilities in, because that, I never said the utilities could go in. The utility box is just right, supposedly going right there. So, you know, I recently heard that some work was going on the sight line here. I could see there was some disturbance in here, but if you're, you know, and maybe the trees that were taken off of this hill were taken off in preparation for putting this transformer, whatever it is, here. I didn't say that could be done.
Okay.
We understand where we are?
Yes.
Okay. Motion to delay.
Motion to delay.
Is there a second? Norma seconds. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, on to new modifications.
No,
No.
743.
Sorry.
Next.
2055 are good.
Late, or too late.
Early.
743 left. Okay, thank you, Bill. 2015-092, 743 Lake Avenue, Frangione LLC, for 743 Lake Avenue LLC for demolition and construction of a new single-family residence.
Okay. This is an oversized parcel in the R2 zone. It's currently a house up here near Lake Avenue. The applicant wants to tear that house down, build a new, slightly larger house in the same location. There's a pool right now behind the existing house there. Want to put a pool a little bit further back from the new house. Do some leveling of this sloping, what is now a sloping lawn with 2 retaining walls, and do their drainage up here as a Coltex system. I believe that's it. Mr. Frangione, based on a question I posed to him, says that these retaining walls will be mechanically stabilized retaining walls, and there's a detail in the application on the application sheets. But the way that these walls are built, they're built in levels, and then there's fill put against them. So if this is one of the first phases of the project, it will be tremendous protection for the wetland corridor down here. And that was, Mr. Frangione was saying that it would be done early, before a lot of the other backyard leveling is done. The pervious asphalt's also going to be used in this driveway. And the overall effect of that drainage system will be to reduce peak runoff rates through the 50-year storm, and the peaks will be, volumes will be reduced through the 100-year storm compared to existing conditions. And DPW has finished their review of this and found it to be acceptable since I wrote this report back on the 12th. Now, I asked Mr. Frangione if his clients were willing to plant native plants on the terrace between the 2 retaining walls. He said they would be, and this will effectively increase the natural buffer to the wetland to a minimum of 55 feet. So, as I said, DPW has reviewed and approved it at this point, and I'd recommend the agency issue a permit with the conditions provided.
Hello. I have nothing further to add. We accept the comments and the permit conditions. If you have any questions.
I do not. Does anyone on the agency have questions for Mr. Frangione? No? Your public questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Bill seconded. All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Number 9, 2015-093, 1034 Lake Avenue, Soundview Engineers and Land Surveyors from Fraser Owen Smith for construction of residential additions.
This is a one-story house at the present time. The applicant would like to add a second story to the main part of the house, and then this western extension of the house, which it currently exists in a smaller footprint, would be expanded as shown on this plan in purple. The plan also includes a new septic system up here in the front yard. I have no idea where the existing system is. My guess is it could be anywhere, probably much closer to the wetland than what's being proposed. So being 60 feet from the wetland is probably an improvement. Let's see. This project overall will only have a 309 square foot increase in impervious coverage, and an exemption form has been submitted indicating that all of the roof leaders will discharge to splash pads at grade. There is some landscaping debris in this wetland, small accumulations, a Christmas tree here or there. That stuff should be removed. And I would recommend the agency require some sort of a planting plan of woody plants to better define the eastern edge of the wetland, because currently the lawn sort of blends into this herbaceous wetland edge, and I don't think it was any clearing event per se, but it could use some enhancement. So given the amount of site work, I think a little bit of an enhancement along here would be reasonable to require, and I've added that as a condition of approval. With that, I would recommend the agency issue a permit.
Thank you, Bob.
How you doing? Brian Muller, Soundview Engineers and Land Surveyors. I agree with everything Bob, Mr. Clausey said. Just wanted to clarify that we are actually not getting it's kind of depicted not quite right. The purple or blue, whatever color you call it, the only actual addition is towards the south, towards the existing driveway. There actually isn't anything going towards the actual wetlands, except for a second story above that existing garage. And then a small increase in the driveway area to the southwest of that garage, existing garage. And then also there's a front porch being proposed as well. And the existing septic system, we actually do not know where it is. There's no as-built of it. The only thing we show is the existing septic tank, which is because we found the manhole. Other than that, we're 100% with Mr. Clausey. We will submit a restoration buffer planting plan as part of the conditions of approval.
Very good. Bob, any need for a demarcation feature, boulders or anything for this?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I think if the planting plan itself will be a
enough
demarcation.
Yeah, it would be tough with the driveway. The existing driveway is right up against that wetland line.
Okay, any questions? The applicant? Public questions or comments? Have a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Stephanie got in there? All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. New modifications, 2012-113, 10 Durkin Place, Rocco v. DeAndrea for Steve Metalios and Thomas Carroll to maintain retaining wall and modify landscape.
All right. All right, so this application is the result of a violation. Staff was notified that work was occurring that included removal of vegetation and deposition of landscaping material within the wetland area on the southeastern portion of the property. Staff did an inspection and found that approximately 8 trees had been removed within this location. About 3 or 4 of them consisted of deadwood, but the remaining appeared to be living trees. Upon further inspection, staff discovered that there was a mortar wall installed along the northern property boundary. right along the entire length of the northern property line. There was a green sheet in December 2014 that allowed for a dry lay stone wall only to go about 70 feet along that property line. So as a result of this, staff issued a stop work order, and a cease and correct order followed in April 2015. The application has been submitted. They're proposing to maintain the mortared stone wall. The wall, if it doesn't have already, it wasn't seen by staff, should have weep holes that are constructed periodically along its length. There is a portion of the wall you can't see on the plan, unfortunately, that is right over here in this location. It's an open space parcel. The wall has been constructed within that area. It's proposed to be removed and the area graded to the existing condition prior to its rebuild. The area is then proposed to be left to naturally revegetate. Planting plans should be developed to restore the area to minimize any intrusion of invasive species. The previous planting plan that was not installed as part of this approval showed plantings that went along the northern part of the residence all the way to the northern property line, so it blocked this area of the site, so there was no access around this part of the house. Currently, they're proposing a planting plan that allows for a grass walking path through here, and so they'll be plantings here on the northern property line here and against the house. They're also proposing additional plantings on the northeastern part of the property. There has been no plan provided that will re-vegetate the southeastern wetland violation that we looked at originally. So a planting plan should be developed that restores the trees that were removed 2-to-1. So at this time, staff's recommending that the agency delay until these issues are addressed.
Okay, thank you, Doreen. Welcome.
Thank you. I am representing Mr. Carroll, who constructed the wall a little bit more enthusiastically than had been permitted under the modification, and as
That's the one way to say it. We should have heard that earlier.
Didn't want to truck out all that extra stuff.
So good.
But I will say that it was well constructed, and it is permeable. It is a dry stone wall, but it does have a cap on it that is mortared down to hold it together and look aesthetically pleasing as far as he was concerned. So I've highlighted on this plan in red the length of the wall that was previously approved. In the southeast corner, as Doreen pointed out, I wasn't aware that there was any real issue over there. There were some trees cut, but he also did plant more trees in that area, and I wasn't aware that there was any disposal area in that, but we'll check that out again and make sure that it's cleaned up. I've discussed the comments with the owners, and they'll certainly come up with a planting plan for the restoration of the open space. Once that portion of the wall is removed, we would hope that the agency could give us an indication that this proposal for maintaining the wall, if it's proven to be porous, so that the water does move laterally into the adjacent wetland, which, for those of you who've been there and seen the photos that I presented, is maintained as a lawn. It's a rugged area of the adjacent property. So the fact is, we can maintain the wall, keep the material on this side, allow the water to move through in the northerly direction into the wetland corridor, which, by the way, is intercepted by a catch basin that comes through this property and discharges over into the Durkin Place drainage system. So I think in summary, what we're hoping to do is provide you with a landscaping plan for restoration of the open space portion after removal of that section of the wall, and hopefully retain the rest of the wall, which stabilizes the yard and is only a couple of feet above the adjacent wetland, which needs some attention. And then we'll address the issue of concern about the open space on the southeast corner, where there were trees adjacent, planted, and in compensation for the removal of the couple of trees that needed to be removed, in the opinion of the owner. I tend to concur with him on that one. So hopefully we can agree that keep that northerly section of the wall, except for that portion that encroaches into the wetland, into the open space, And the reason for the path along the north side of the wall of the building is that, in retrospect, if you completely densify, there's no action around the house, and sometimes you just have to get around for safety or maintenance. So the landscape architect that was consulted on this thought it would be appropriate to provide that path. Yes, it's a piece of lawn, but it's separated or segregated by the planting on either side. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. DeAndrea regarding this application? Okay. Any public questions or comments on this? Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to be made.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
All right, thank you. We'll address those issues.
Thank you. Okay. Next, 2015-013, 150 Clabber Ridge Road, signature pools for Joseph and Marissa Femenia for relocation of a temporary access way and maintenance of septic lateral.
Okay. In February, staff, February, the agency issued a permit. That permit was for this construction of this pool behind the house, relocation of the septic lateral around this side of the pool, whereas it originally went straight through the back of from the back of the house, and construction access around this way. This is north is to the right on this plan, so this is the west side of the house. Let's see, when staff went out to inspect the site in the middle of May, we found that the septic lateral had been installed around the west side of the pool site, and the construction access was coming from the east side, and this is a wetland right here, so it was going through the wetland. Also problematic was that this construction access was a loose bed of stone, brick, and other materials that had nothing underneath them to keep that material from being smashed into the wetland as traffic went back and forth on the access way. There were no erosion controls on site, and none of the preconditions of the permit had been complied with, so it was basically a perfect storm. We issued a stop work notice and set a deadline for submission of an application. And so I won't go into all these details because the plan that is before you has changed a little bit in that the applicant has gotten health department approval for having the sewer lateral, the septic lateral go around the west side of the pool. Whereas they had originally applied this time to maintain this access way without any improvement to it, which was against what I recommended they do when they come in. They now are going to abandon this and use the permitted access around this side and use steel plates or some other method to get across the septic lateral. Also recommended was an enhanced planting plan for this eastern wetland to restore more of it to a natural state because this whole area had been maintained as a lawn. That's been done with this new planting plan, and they're going to remove this and restore that to its previous state. So I think this, to me, is acceptable since they're going to just abandon this unauthorized access way. I would recommend the agency modify the permit 2015-23, adding these three new preconditions, conditions of approval.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Welcome.
How are you? Bruno, Signature Pools. I know it looks like we came in here reckless abandon, but obviously I want...
Just dyslexic, one or the other.
They're over enthusiastic.
I'm certainly here to see what you guys want of us, so we can make whatever corrections are needed, how you want us to go about making the corrections. Besides the obvious, I mean, if there's a certain way that you want the current access road to be removed, if you want to be part of that, whether you want to, Mr. Clausen wants to oversee what we're doing when we're removing it, certainly whatever you want, we'll do.
Thank you. Agency questions, comments on this?
Yeah, I would ask Bob, to what extent have they already driven the materials into the wetland, even though it is a wall? I mean, how deep do they have to go to get the stuff out?
It doesn't look like they went across that road very often. I mean, they've got the backhoe in there, and the backhoe's still in there, right?
We pulled everything out as far as that, so we've gone over, we brought in the materials with the loader. We had a 160 excavator go over the top, we spread it with that, but there was no more compaction with trucks or anything. There was nothing done except digging the trench for the septic to be relocated on the west side of the property.
I don't think very much material got.
So there's no compaction.
You've already remediated it?
No, that's there. Just the machine was pulled out, so that, no.
All right.
No.
So is the gravel.
So we just got,
down to,
we got to pull that out, obviously, and restore it to what it was.
That's it.
following the planting plan, so that seems, with us and then staff will take a look at it.
Very good.
Okay. Any public questions or comments on this? No?
Motion to approve as proposed.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Bill seconds, all in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, 2015-055, 63 John Street, Rocco V. DeAndrea, Inc., for Closes Brook LLC, for construction of a residential addition, in-ground pool and patio.
Let's see. There's an agent approval issued earlier this year, which authorized the construction of some residential additions and other activities that were either minor or very well removed from the watercourse here. The current application expands the site activities to include a covered porch around the, where is it? Over here on this part of the house. Install this new driveway up to the motor court here at the, this is the north end of the house. Remove the existing driveway that goes up to the barn and then loops around to the house. So all of this pavement is coming out. And then build a pool between the barn and the house with a patio. The barn will be connected to a septic system up down south of the house, and they want to do a formal garden on a knoll here to the south of the house. Drainage includes a infiltration system and a rain garden. The net increase in impervious coverage is only 182 square feet because of all the pavement that's coming out. So the exemption form and drainage report, I believe, was also submitted with this, seemed to be acceptable upon staff review. Okay. There is a retaining wall proposed right here behind the barn and a little bit of regrading associated with that. I would guess a couple of trees are going to come out in this location, and I'd recommend the agency require those trees and any trees that need to come out for these activities on the knoll to be replaced on a one-for-one basis in the same general vicinities from which the trees are removed. And that's reflected in the conditions in the staff report. I recommend the agency issue a permit.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. We certainly discussed this property with Mr. Clausy on several occasions. With me tonight is Mr. Jim Hoffman, who represents the owner and of the property. We have no objection to those conditions. We've discussed them with Jim, and we appreciate that effort.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. DeAndrea on this application from the agency? Any public questions or comments? Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jim seconds. All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to violations. We have 4 tonight. First is cease and correct order 2015-14 for James and Linda Waterbury, 29 Pine Ridge Road, unauthorized removal of trees from a wetland and upland review area.
Okay, according to our new procedures, I'm going to read into the record the documents in the file related to cease and correct order 2015-14. We have a GIS map of tree clearing at 29 Pine Ridge Road. Field investigation conducted on July 7th, 2015 at 29 and 51 Pine Ridge Roads. 21 photographs taken during the field investigation on July 7th. July 8th, the stop work order issued to 29 Pine Ridge. We did receive the signed certified mail return receipt on that. Also submitted, sent with the stop work order was a IWWA application checklist. An email between staff and Chairman Harris regarding a violation that merits a citation. That was on July 7th. Cease and correct order 2015-14 mailed July 13th. The violation summary I sent in your meeting packets. That's dated July 13th. July 15th, a letter from Ivy Barnum and O'Mara, LLC, to staff regarding their client, which are the Waterburys, owners of 29 Pine Ridge Road. And this letter states that the Waterburys are not the party responsible for doing the clearing. July 10th, 2015, this is a topographic survey of the property at 29 Pine Ridge Road that Mr. Waterbury had his landscape architect provide for the file. And we have Mr. Waterbury's business card. So getting to the violation summary, we got a call on July 7th from representatives of the Waterburys stating that trees have been cut down adjacent to a watercourse that runs through the east side of their property at 29 Pine Ridge Road. The report went on to say that it appeared the work had been done by the neighbors at 51 Pine Ridge Road. So I went out to the site, met with Mr. Waterbury, who had just returned from a trip the day before, and only noticed that these trees had been cleared when he looked out his window that morning. So interestingly, the survey, this topographic survey, does identify some trees in the vicinity of the watercourse that were cut down, so we have some actual DBHs as found by a surveyor. But when I went out to the cleared area and estimated the trees that had come out of within 100 feet of the watercourse, I counted 18 stumps ranging from about 4 inches to about 36 inches. 11 of these were, 6 of these were in the 11 to 20 inch range, 8 were in the 21 to 36 inch range, and the rest were smaller. There may have been other stumps there that were obscured by the logs that lay all over the area. There was cutting mostly on 29 Pine Ridge, but some on 51 as well, it appeared to me. I went over to number 51, no one was home. A notice of violation was stuck into the front door and attached to the dumpster that was in the driveway. This is getting on to the second part of this, but I did issue stop work orders to 29, as I stated, on July 8th. Set an application deadline of August 26th. Let's see, the cease and correct order was sent with the violation summary thereafter on July 13th. So I recommend the agency maintain the cease and correct order 2015-14, and I know representation is here to talk about this next part, that a certificate of violation be filed on the land records if an application to address this violation is not submitted by August 26th.
Thank you, Bob. Welcome.
I guess I'll step up.
Sure.
I'm Melissa Pollard, for the record, for the Waterburies. I'm with Ivy Barn, sorry. And the Waterburies own 29 Pine Ridge, and as Bob said in his report, Mr. Waterbury came home having his breakfast, looked out his window and realized that all of his trees had been ripped down. He was fairly calm, but he certainly wasn't happy because these were huge old trees that really provided a lot of shade and a buffer between his property and the property next door, and now they're all gone. So he asked that I make sure that you're aware that he wasn't the violator and that any certificate of violation is not reported against his property, even though it's on his property. We don't want to see it in the land records in this chain of title. He also proposes that we put together, hire someone, bark the tree or someone to give us an idea of what would be the best way to remediate what's been done. So we'll do that and submit that to Bob for his use as best we can.
Thank you. So, Bob, I guess the general question is, how do you proceed here if there is a violation on a property that someone else actually did it? I mean,
Well,
can you have a...
It may be a good idea for me to go to 51 right now and to talk about that, and we can talk about both together, and we'd have to make motions on each one separately, but we don't have to do them sequentially. We could do, we don't have to do 29 now and then talk about 51.
Right.
Because the property owners from 51 are here this evening, so we could get something done perhaps.
Okay, very good.
All right, so moving on to cease and correct order 2015-15 for 51 Pine Ridge Road. The documents in the record are similar to the other one. There's a GIS map of the reported area of tree clearing, and then on July 7th, notice of violation, stop work order issued at 51 Pine Ridge Road. Field investigation of 29 and 51 Pine Ridge Road, July 7th, and 21 photographs taken during that field investigation. July 8th, stop work order sent to 51 Pine Ridge with the signed certified mail return receipt in our file. This email between staff and Chairman Harris regarding a violation that merits a citation, that's dated July 7th. July 8th is an email from one of the property owners at 51 Pine Ridge. Is it Miss Walsh or?
Well, who's both.
Okay. Then citation 2015-04 issued to Connor Walsh and Clara Huslop, 51 Pine Ridge Road, and we have that signed certified mail return receipt. That was dated July 8th. The citation 2015-05 issued to K&J Tree Removal, Hamden, Connecticut. We have that signed certified mail return receipt in our file. That citation was sent out on July 10th. Cease and correct order 2015-15. We have that signed certified mail return receipt. And the violation summary that was sent out that same day on July 13th. And That's what we have, as well as everything else on the other with us, the survey and other things that also relate, help to paint the picture. So I guess the only thing I would add here is a couple things. After we posted the notice of violation on the July 7th, July 8th, Ms. Huslop visited the office and spoke with staff about the matter. She was there first thing in the morning, very apologetic, and she provided me with the name of the contractor, this K&J Tree Removal, as I asked her to do, so I appreciate that. Now, this, as I mentioned in the record of documents, a citation was issued to Mr. Walsh and Ms. Huslop on July 8th, as well as the tree contractor. And as I mentioned previously, it appeared to me that a couple of the trees that were cut from within 100 feet of the watercourse were on 51 Pine Ridge Road. So I recommend the agency maintain the cease and correct order, 2015-15, and file a certificate of violation on the land record if an application to address that violation on 51 is not submitted by August 26, 2015. So now that everything's out, perhaps we can see if there's a way to get everything done at once.
Okay. Great. Well,
Who do you represent?
Myself.
You're-
I'm.
you're the owners of 51?
Yeah.
So you're 51.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we'll be getting an application with a remediation plan?
Yeah,
For both properties at this point? That
Yeah.
covers both properties?
Absolutely. We didn't maliciously know that this was wetland. We were working off a map that we had that showed wetland at the back of the property and nothing at the front. So we didn't think there was any restrictions. So the trees near our house were kind of a safety issue for me. And then the ones further away were so tall that we would, work in the city, come back and it's dark. So it was just kind of get a corridor of light to come in. And I'm absolutely on the same page as the Waterburies, is wanting to have privacy, and we definitely want to put something up. We want to make them happy, we want to make you happy.
So you're going to cooperate with, obviously, this very earnest effort to correct both violations?
Yes, like I said.
To the extent it's your land? Okay. So the application will cover both violations, and you're here only to request that there's no violation put on the land record, but that won't happen in any events. Or the plan goes.
Provided that the application is fine.
But can you do it with one application, or do you need two applications because it's two properties?
No, I mean, if the Walshes sign a consent letter authorizing, I'm sorry, if the Waterburies authorizing these folks to make the application on their behalf to do the whole thing, that works.
Okay. That's fine.
And you're going to be prepared to do that for the next meeting, an application?
I've got the checklist, and I'm new to all of this, so I've got a soil scientist coming out on Wednesday to flag the area and test the soil, and they have recommended a surveyor and a landscape architect. I don't have any idea how long that type of thing takes to do. I want to get it fixed as soon as possible because I want everyone to be happy, and I can't be happy if other people aren't happy. So, yeah.
So do you think that's realistic to do it by August, for the next meeting?
It might be an idea to ask for more time if you think that I'll need it.
You always give more time, and then if
Yeah.
it is available, bring it back.
Yeah.
Otherwise, give till the September meeting, but if it's available.
Well, if we have the application by August 26th, that is for the
That's
September
in
meeting.
September, yes.
Right.
So now we're
Right.
talking about getting the application in September for the October meeting.
What's your
I
sense,
think-
Bob? You need the planning done though in October, so you just be moving.
Well, I mean, this plan from the Waterburys is in the file, and it's a public record. You know, you could use some of this information perhaps, because it shows the wetland that was delineated along that watercourse
Right.
in the area where the clearing was done.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that we need to know about the wetlands on the other side of your property
Right.
today. So maybe you can skip the soil scientist, use this information
Right.
to
You may
jumpstart
not-
that.
You may not need to hire all of these people.
Well, that would be great.
Yes.
So, given that information exists, I'd like to keep it at the August 26th date.
I mean, it's in everyone's interest, you've got an abutting neighbor that you're also trying to apply for, so it's in everyone's interest to move it along.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just the professionals that will slow it down. And if you can hire fewer of the professionals, you're better off.
So that one means I don't need the soil scientist, or is that surveyor?
Well, it's a survey on the Waterbury property, so you might,
You'll need one for your section of.
you might still need something for this area.
Could I suggest, instead of making all that decision right now, if you could spend 10 focused minutes with Bob after he's really had time to see what's physically available in the public record, you could then know what you had to hire,
Yeah.
other than just walking away not knowing,
Yeah, that would be great.
if you have the time to try to sort it out.
Yeah.
And then our focus is the adjacent, whatever the clearing adjacent to the wetland. What happens beyond that is really between you and your neighbors.
Yeah, and I've been having emails with them and talking.
Okay.
I got the list of approved trees, and I'll make sure that everybody's.
Very good. Okay.
So motion to maintain cease and correct order unless the application is submitted by August 26th.
And that is to maintain both numbers?
Yes, I
or-
think it's
okay.
both
For
violations.
14 and 15.
And I don't think your letter needs to be addressed at this point.
Right.
Is it possible to, I just don't want the clients to be upset, and I want to move the trees so they don't have to look at them. Is that right?
You mean
You mean the debris,
Clear the stumps?
debris, the
Yeah.
stumps.
Yeah,
The logs?
yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's shocking.
I think you have to speak to their representative, because those logs have a value and it's their property. So, I don't know that they want you to move them,
Yeah.
or, I don't know.
Well, are they going to be moving logs through or in the wetland?
No, they're moving them, pulling them out through their property, which is the best way to do it, absolutely, instead of going all the way across to the Waterbury's property. But I think you need to coordinate with them, and I'd recommend if you get that worked out, that the agency allow that to be done, so that the whole, how the number of trees that were cleared can be fully assessed. Like I said, I'm not sure I got all the stumps.
Yeah, don't remove stumps, just
Yeah.
the logs.
Well, you all agree.
Right, right.
You all agree. So it's both issue of maybe potential value of the logs as well as access to remove them.
You may come back with a proposal to build a little log cabin in back there. You got all the children.
Wall, the log wall.
Okay, so you were saying?
Motion's pending.
Motion pending, I will second that motion. All in favor? Thank you. Good luck.
Time for a neighborhood barbecue here. Talk it through.
Lots of alcohol.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Cease and correct order 2015-16 for Isolino and Esther Marcal, 171 Cognywog Road, unauthorized removal of vegetation and deposition of material within a wetland buffer area and excavation within the upland review area.
Reading in the record of documents for 171 Cognywog Road. There's a soils report prepared by Henry Moeller dated November 18, 2002. The full contents of application 2002-207, permit 2003-013. Field visit photos taken June 30th, 2015. Stop work order dated July 1st, 2015. An email chain from the compliance officer to the environmental hygienist dated July 1st, 2015. Violation summary and cease and correct letter issued July 13th, 2015. And an email chain from Peter Finkbeiner, PE of Soundview Engineer and Land Surveyors to compliance officer dated July 20th, 2015. So staff received a call from a concerned neighbor that there was work occurring on the property. A review of the property history found that there was a permit issued in January 2003 for an emergency water line replacement that crossed multiple properties. There was a small wetland on 171 Cognewog Road that was described in a staff report in December 2002 as being a very small wetland pocket that was full of water at the time of the inspection. This current site inspection revealed that a septic tank had been installed close to the residence. And the rear of the property in the location of that wetland pocket had been cleared, denuded of vegetation, and the area was staked out for the installation of a septic galleries. Staff, upon returning to the office, contacted the health department and confirmed that they did issue a permit for the installation of a septic system. Staff informed them that a wetland permit would be required based on that wetland pocket. So they had placed a note into the file so that any contractor would be required to go through wetlands prior to continuing with installation. A stop work order was issued on July 1st, 2015. A cease and correct order was also issued on July 13th, 2015. Staff has just talked with Peter Finkbeiner of Soundview Engineers today. They just submitted to staff a revised soils report that indicates there aren't any wetlands on the property. So there's some conflicting information that we'll have to sort out. But at this time, staff is recommending that the agency maintain the cease and correct order 2015-16, and that a certificate violation be placed on the land records if the application to address the violation is not submitted by July 29, 2015.
Thank you, Doreen.
Brian Muller, Soundview Engineers. I'm here on behalf of the client as he lives in Portugal most of the time. So any certified mailing to him might have bounced back, I'm not quite sure. But I was made aware of this morning, and Mr. Finkbeiner took it upon himself as I was busy most of the morning to email the staff and, best understand what the issues were. And as for the small pocket of wetlands, I guess the due diligence wasn't done. But at the same time it was, because Mr. Markel hired Mr. Kenny to go out and do a wetland survey. He just didn't investigate at the town. I'm not sure why the pocket of wetlands disappeared. Maybe it was during the water line construction, maybe it was the previous owner, I don't know. Either way, I agree with everything that was said, and we will submit a formal application with the septic plan by July 29th, I believe.
Very good. Any questions?
Nope.
Other questions, comments? No? Okay.
Motion to maintain cease and correct unless application is submitted by July 29th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Elliot seconds, all in favor?
Thank you.
Are you waiting to see Bob? You don't want to do it tonight, do you, Bob?
I'd rather not.
You may want to come.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were waiting.
They're on the other side.
That guy said, Mr. Kenny.
Give me a call, and when you know you have some time, and I'll see if I'm available, but make it this week, because I'm...
of the town of Greenwich for, determining.
No, he's a soil scientist. He's not the town.
Did you say
Okay. Very good.
I
Last
didn't get
one.
County Greenwich because Kenny is not County Greenwich.
Yeah, cease and correct 2015-17 for Glenn and Laura Tobias, 315 Sandwich Road, unauthorized removal of vegetation along the slope and within a wetland buffer area.
Okay, again, reading in the record of documents for 315 Sandwich Road. We have the contents of application 2005-082, permit 2005-082. Field visit photos taken June 30th, 2015. Stop work order dated July 1st, 2015. Violation summary and cease and correct letter issued July 13th, 2015. Email chain from Andrea Vigliotti of Louis Fusco Landscape Architects to compliance officer dated July 17th, 2015. And a letter from Louis C. Fusco, RLA, ASLA, dated July 20th, 2015. So staff was requested to do a site inspection on this property to release the bond and also to transfer the permit to the new property owner. On site, there was the permit was for the construction of a new house and associated activities. These were completed as they were approved. There was a pool that had not yet been constructed, and so the current owners would like to keep the permit open so that they can construct the pool in the future. While on site, staff observed an area of approximately 40 feet by 40 feet of vegetation that had been cleared along a pretty moderate slope leading to a watercourse and wetland located on the northeastern part of the property. The property owner was there when staff was on site and explained that the area had been stockpiled with logs and boulders and just lots of vegetation. I guess they didn't like the look of, so they cleared out that area so that they could make it cleaner looking and more aesthetically pleasing. So staff issued a stop work order on July 1st, 2015. Cease and correct order followed on July 13th, 2015. Louis Fusco Landscape Architects have been hired to submit an application by the time frame given by staff. We received a letter today stating that they would do that. Staff recommends that the agency maintain cease and correct order 2015-17 and that a certificate violation be filed on the land records if the application to address the violation is not submitted by July 29th, 2015.
Thank you, Doreen.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion on the bonds?
Bill. Second.
All in favor? Okay. This concludes the July meeting of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency. Thanks for coming.